In this world, the moon is undergoing a mutation that will cause the temperature to rise above 100 degrees. The surface becomes so hot that power plants explode due to the heat. You can't walk outside for more than 20 seconds without fainting, and the asphalt is so hot that if you touch it, you melt. With the whole world unable to leave their homes, supplies have become the most valuable commodity. Our protagonist survived for 5 years with his girlfriend. However, as soon as his supplies began to run out, she sent a guy to kill him before everything was depleted. But now, 5 years back in time before it all started, he has the ability to stockpile food and resources. And in this life, he will accumulate 3 billion resources and vows to be the cruelest person to seek revenge on everyone. But at this moment, our protagonist is on the bus where people are discussing how Mount Fuji has experienced an earthquake that killed dozens of people. And now their city is also being evacuated. The girl in the tight pink dress says they had to leave so quickly that she couldn't even buy supplies. The guy beside her says all the supplies from the surrounding cities disappeared mysteriously, and the other guy with shaved hair says the same thing happened at Donman Lake in Chiangsaen City and also at the Dahunan warehouse. The girl is scared, saying all this must be worth billions. It's at this point that our protagonist from behind everyone says it's actually worth trillions. And the disappearance of so many supplies plus all these natural disasters shows that something is going on. It's good to be alert. The girl asks him if it's the end of the world, while the guy in the green shirt says he's excited. He can't wait for people to be treated equally. But our protagonist thinks that inequality will only increase. Even at the end of the world, there wasn't a day when life was equal. After all, he personally experienced it. In his past life, he was just an ordinary delivery guy, until suddenly the apocalypse began and heat waves hit the whole Earth. The tectonic plates moved and creatures hidden in the core emerged to the surface. The whole world changed overnight, and in this new world, there was a new order. In a society of extreme scarcity, even simple supplies like instant noodles were worth millions, and a sausage was enough to buy any favor. In that world, everyone gave up on normality, and now, after everything that happened in his life, he was reborn a month before it all started. The girl in the pink dress clings to him and says she's kind of scared. Can he calm her down? But he leaves, saying there are more important things to do, leaving her puzzled. Outside the bus, he wonders. In an apocalypse, what's more important? Obviously, supplies and resources. In his past life, he spent all his time searching for them. But this time, he will prepare in advance. He works at this Walmart, and at the moment, the boss is saying he will have his salary reduced. He says it's okay and apologizes, remembering that in the first apocalypse, when everything started, the boss of this place took all the supplies and fled. So now, as compensation, he will take them for himself. He then opens the warehouse, and the system begins to detect all the nearby supplies and sends them to his spatial space. A huge area with a dimension of over 10,000 meters. With this ability, he has been stealing even water from lakes and taking all the supplies from cities that are going to be destroyed. After all, if instant noodles are worth so much, imagine real food. The best part is that time there is frozen, so it means the food stays perfect no matter how long it stays there. Finally, he will have something to eat. The system shows how many resources were acquired in this activation, and he feels that after taking so much, he's finally prepared. At this moment, 3 guys from work enter the completely empty warehouse and ask what happened. Our protagonist reveals that he took everything, and the boss says he has no idea how he did it, but orders the other 2 to get him. But the moment they approach, he takes a step back and mysteriously disappears into thin air. They stand there puzzled, wondering where he disappeared to, while he reappears outside. This is his second ability, spatial jump. Using his spatial power, he can teleport up to 3 meters away. With this, he can gather supplies much more easily and escape without a fuss. He tosses his uniform in the air, declaring the collection complete. Then he receives a message on his phone from the authorities warning that the Earth is undergoing strange movements and everyone should be cautious because a disaster could happen. But there's no need to panic. Our protagonist finds this curious since nothing has really started yet and they're already saying this. Does it mean they somehow know the future? At that moment, he receives a call from his girlfriend, Jang Seokyeon. He sighs and answers, and she scolds him, asking how he had the nerve to put their house up for sale. Does he think she'll really stay with him if he sells the house? He needs to be more responsible as a man because even though she doesn't want the house, she's still a woman. And if he wants to prove to her that he's a real man, he should hand over the house to make her feel secure. Su-chen, our protagonist, asks if she has anything else to say. She says, what kind of attitude is this? If he hands over the house, she'll give him another chance. Just transfer the documents to her. But if he doesn't do that, don't even think about marrying her. But Su-chen hangs up without saying anything. He He remembers that in the last 5 years of the apocalypse, he went out every day to hunt for supplies to feed her, and even took her to one of the safe zones. If it weren't for him, she would have starved in the first few days. But still, and he remembers a day when he returned home and was attacked from behind. All because he wasn't bringing in as many supplies, and they wanted to know if he was hiding something. After Su Chen was killed, they had fun next to his body. And Jiang Xiaoqin warned the guy on top of her that Su Chen died because he was a useless incompetent. And it's good for this guy to prove he's not so incompetent. Su Chen was devastated to have trusted such a person for so long. But in this life, Xiaoqin and that guy named Wang will pay the price. And they won't die easily. The pain he felt, they will feel 100 times more. He calms down and remembers that the things he needs now are not found in the market and can only be bought with money. But first, he needs to get that money. So he calls a guy named Liu and says he's selling his house at half price, but he wants the money now. In front of the real estate agency, Wang and Xiaoqin are waiting for him. When he appears, Xiaoqin scolds him for keeping her waiting for so long. But he ignores her and walks past. Wang asks who let him sell the house and that if he does anything like this again, he won't see the sun tomorrow. But at that moment, Su Chen, who has learned to fight after surviving, grabs him by the neck and throws him to the ground, saying he can do whatever he wants with his things. While Xiaoqin is scared by this and tries to stop him. But she receives a slap and falls to the ground in disbelief. On the ground, Wang is begging him to let go, saying he's almost suffocating, but Su Chen tells him not to worry since he won't die so easily. He then releases Wang, who is shocked on the ground, while Su Chen enters the real estate agency. At that moment, Xiaoqin threatens him, saying to seize this opportunity she's giving him. If he kneels down and apologizes, she'll consider his case. But if he doesn't do that, forget about marrying her. Su Chen looks back and stares at the two who run away in fear. Inside the real estate agency, the attendant offers him some water, saying they will buy his house now. What does he think? The realtor's plan is simple. Su Chen's house is worth $1 million, but now he's selling it for $700,000. All he needs to do is buy and sell to someone else, and he'll make a good profit. Su Chen agrees to sell, but he has to receive the full payment now. The guy agrees, saying they'll transfer everything, and by tomorrow morning, it'll all be sorted out. Su Chen obviously agrees because houses will lose all value as temperatures rise. Despite several disasters occurring, the city is still peaceful for now. Volcanoes, earthquakes, and tsunamis are all still far away. Walking down the street, he sees a poster advertising quick loans. He decides to go there with his house certificate. Upon arrival, he's shocked to see it's the older brother of the guy who just beat him up, knowing this guy will die in the jaws of a monster in the first few days. The guy says he can lend him $500,000. He just needs to leave the house certificate. Su Chen hands over the certificate, saying he wants another $100,000 and promises to win it all back at the casino in a week. The seller likes hearing this and thinks this kid must be one of those gamblers who would sell even their relatives if necessary. This way, he won't be able to pay, will keep the house, and he'll still have a lot of debt. With that, the guy agrees, and another $600,000 is transferred. Xiaoqin is angry along with Wang, saying he'll pay the price for this. As they were going to visit Wang's brother and Su Chen just came from there, they spot him. Wang wants to know what he's doing here, already grabbing his neck in fear, but they decide to follow him. Su Chen remembers that several buildings will collapse because of the tsunamis. But this hotel in the Green City has withstood all disasters until the end. He knows the presidential suite is well equipped and even has a pool. Maybe it's a good place to use as a base for a while. Even at the end of times, this place continued to have food for a long time. He is then greeted by the attendant Liu Xinru, who asks what she can do for him. Su Chen says he wants 1,000 tables for a banquet, startling her. She offers some table options, thinking this kid must be the son of someone very rich. He says he'll want the table that costs $10,000 each and will make a deposit of $500,000. When everything is settled, he'll make the rest of the payment. She is somewhat incredulous, but says to follow her to make the payment, thinking that even though this payment of his may not be much, someone who easily spends $500,000 surely has more to spend, so it's best to facilitate the process. Entering the room, she asks if he's getting married. He says yes, and all this is for a wedding, and he also wants the presidential suite. Sometime later, he's leaving the hotel all happy. He got over $10 million in food, spending $500,000 with the advance deposit. And it doesn't matter about the rest, since when the apocalypse begins, the ice blocks he'll have will be worth billions. Watching him leave, she thinks whoever marries him is a lucky girl. At that moment, Xiaoqin appears and asks what that person was doing. The attendant asks who she is, and she says she's Su Chen's girlfriend. The attendant then says her boyfriend ordered a banquet for over 1,000 people and paid $500,000. To have a boyfriend like him, she's really lucky. However, the attendant is looking and thinking this girl is at most a 7. But she has a good body. Why do rich guys always like women like this? Xiaoqian and Yang are shocked. A $10 million banquet? The attendant says it's the case and that maybe she hasn't realized, but many rich people do this. They get into relationships and hide all the money they have until the day of the wedding. Xiaoqian starts to believe this, and Wang thinks it's impossible for that loser to have so much money. However, the attendant shows that she received the transfer of 500,000. On the street, Wang is asking Xiaoqian, who is he going to invite to a 1,000-person banquet? Now Xiaoqian is confident, saying, "You really don't understand, do you? He's trying to introduce me to the circle of millionaires he knows. Only then will he reveal my identity." Wang is wanting to become a mountaineer and venture into the mountains, but she slaps him. Thinking that she has to create as many opportunities as possible to stay with that loser while imagining herself as a wealthy lady in a chair being pampered, her eyes sparkle. She never imagined this scenario. She'll definitely have to marry Su Chen the loser, and that's too good. Meanwhile, Su Chen is just tallying up what he's done. 700,000 for the house, plus 600,000 loan and 500,000 for the banquet. And now that his name is about to be tarnished, taking out a bunch more loans wouldn't be bad. So he installs all the banking apps on his phone and starts taking out a bunch more loans. After creating over 80 accounts, he managed to get another 970,000. Now he needs to buy a fireplace, ice-making machine, ice blocks, smokeless charcoal, and a few other things that aren't available in the markets. With the amount of money he has, buying online with fast delivery is easy. These items are essential for surviving the extreme cold and heat that will occur. He then orders 2,000 tons of smokeless charcoal and also calls an ice factory to make a reservation. As he's walking down the street, a girl calls out to him. She's a friend of Xiaoqian's and says Xiaoqian misses him. However, Su Chen knows this girl isn't up to any good and has always spoken ill of him to everyone. So he tells her, "Miss me. She must miss my house, right?" Lena looks at Xiaoqian and says Su Chen must be testing her, and she has to realize how sad he was with her behavior. Xiaoqian then rushes to Shen to apologize, feeling embarrassed, asking if he can accompany her for a walk. She's not feeling well and she was sad to have fought with him yesterday. But Su Chen ignores her and tells her to go for a walk alone. Xiaoqian is losing her temper, saying he's being too arrogant, and Lena says he's getting a taxi. It's good they follow him and see what he's up to. Meanwhile, Su Chen is arriving at the ice factory. The guy receives him, impressed that he's so young. Su Chen asks if the 2,000 tons of edible ice are ready, and the attendant says his factory isn't cheap, but guarantees extremely fast delivery. He just needs to pay a small portion, and they'll deliver everything. Su Chen then transfers 100,000 to him, and the seller informs that everything will be delivered in 3 days. Saving money, the attendant asks why he needs so much ice. Is he organizing an event? If he wants, they can cooperate in the future, and the price is negotiable. Su Chen says it's all for a charity event and leaves. At that moment, another taxi stops and the seller gets excited. But it's Xiaoqian wanting to know what that guy who just left was doing here. She's asking because he's her boyfriend. The seller is confused. Is this girl playing detective? What's going on here? He says he ordered 800,000 in ice. Both of them are shocked. 800,000 in ice. It's confirmed. He's a millionaire indeed to do something like that. Lena asks, did he tell you what he's going to do with so much ice? The seller thinks and remembers. He said he's going to donate it to charity. Both of them get scared without understanding the reason. The scene shifts to one of the city's fanciest restaurants. In his past life, he never enjoyed anything before everything was destroyed, and even having a coffee was a luxury. Looking at the menu, he sees it's all quite expensive. And on the last page, there's something for 17,000 with a question mark. He asks when it is, and the attendant says it's a special item made by their chef. Su Chen says it sounds good and places the order. He remembers that in his past life, several creatures mutated. Some people thought it was some kind of biological change. But for him, it was just the creatures adapting to the new environment. At that moment, a girl with pink hair comes to deliver his order. She's marvelous and introduces herself as the chef of this restaurant. Su Chen recognizes her as Chef Duanya. During the apocalypse, she became known as the Hell's Chef. She had some kind of magical culinary ability that turned corpses into edible things. And in a world of scarcity, no one could resist temptation. However, the dishes made with mutated creatures always ended up killing people. Seeing his expression, she wonders, does he think that a beautiful girl like me would poison his food? And then she tells him that the dish she served is called Two-Faced Life. It's a meat dish with different preparations on each side. Su Chen tries it and says it's really worth the $17,000, while thinking it would be wonderful to have her at home to cook. Outside, Lena says she heard this restaurant is really expensive. and Xiaoqian says she can't wait to become a rich wife. So Su Chen decides to go to one of the city's most expensive bars, since soon it won't be possible. As soon as he sits down, a bunch of girls surround him asking what he wants to drink. He starts drinking with them, and when he looks to the side, there's a girl sitting there. Her friend says she was betrayed by her boyfriend and came here to have some fun. The girl says her boyfriend didn't even sleep with her and cheated on her with an old woman. Why do all men act like that? Su Chen says it's because men's instinct to reproduce is ingrained in their DNA and mind. Suddenly, she drinks her entire drink and asks if he's single. He's confused, but she approaches and asks if he's interested. At that moment, Xiaoqian and Lina enter the bar looking for him. And at a table in the corner, they see him with the 3 girls. Su Chen tells her they can go up to a room and she seems to agree, so the two rush off. It seems the desire between them is strong. Xiaoqian and Lina shout at him to stop, but the two run to the room, enter, and close the door. He apologizes to her for those two, and the girl timidly says it's her first time. Su Chen feels awkward and flicks her forehead, saying she must be drunk to do something like that. He tells her not to leave the house for the next few days and to stock up on food. She says she understands. And then he says a girl like her shouldn't be in a place like this. With that, he closes the door and leaves, thinking it's a shame, but he won't be able to seize this opportunity. When he leaves the room, Xiaoqian and Lina are kicking all the doors. But he easily leaves, and the next day he receives all the delivery trucks, from the ice, charcoal, to the banquets. Wang is confused in the crowd, wondering why the hell Su Chen rented such a huge warehouse just to receive so much stuff, and now even Xiaoqian is getting confused, wondering what he's doing. At that moment, Lina points out that the banquet from the Green City Hotel has arrived. They're laying out the carpets and organizing all the tables beautifully. Could it be that suddenly a bunch of people will arrive, and you will declare his love for her and propose? Xiaoqian is now all haughty, saying that even if he proposes, she'll still think about his case. They say they need to see his sincerity and decide to go talk to him. She then goes to Su Chen and asks why he's buying so much stuff. And Su Chen says he'll explain later, but can she help him organize everything? Xiaoqian is scared, thinking he's a jerk for making the girl who's about to become rich soon do such hard work. Lina says it must be some kind of test to see if she's qualified to become a rich girl, and at that, Xiaoqian changes her attitude and says she's not that weak type of woman. She knows how to be delicate, but also knows how to work and starts carrying the boxes. But she's dying of anger, saying that when she becomes a rich woman, Su Chen will pay. At that moment, Lina comes to try to seduce him, saying she'll help carry the boxes. In her mind, she's sure that someone as rich as him won't have just one woman, right? As long as she shows a bit of what she has to offer, she might at least get to enjoy a little. Meanwhile, Su Chen is thinking he can't lose free labor like this. After all, with so much ice and tables to set up, he'll need some help. Some time passes and they finally finish everything. Xiaoqian is dripping with sweat and her legs are shaking. She says she's been carrying stuff since morning until now. As soon as she becomes his wife, she'll make sure to take all his money. Lina, lying on the ground, is also finished, saying that the damn guy really made them carry those heavy ice boxes. Xiaoqian says enough of this test, he has to propose to her right away and start the party or the guests will arrive. And Lina says he needs to hurry up because the food is getting cold. Meanwhile, Su Chen gives a good amount of extra money to all the delivery guys who thank him from the bottom of their hearts. At that moment, Xiaoqian comes and asks, Su Chen, don't you have something to tell me? Su Chen says yes, he thanks her for the help, but unfortunately, there's no payment for them, so they can leave now. Xiaoqian is shocked and tells him to stop joking. The guests are already arriving, not to mention there are 1,000 tables. Why doesn't he just reveal that he wants to marry her so they can have a good life? Su Chen looks back and says that's impossible for him. After all, he's already sold the house and accumulated a bunch of debts. Does she really want to marry him? Lina says that doesn't make sense. How can someone with no money buy so much ice? Su Chen says he's only doing all this to help his very rich boss who wants to do a charity project. Xiaoqian loses her temper and anger and attacks him, saying he's been lying to her this whole time. He says he hasn't lied about anything, while she falls to the ground with a monstrous look, saying he's just a poor loser who can forget about marrying her. Su Chen says he's not interested at all, and she angrily leaves, saying he's a bastard and will regret it. When they both leave, he thinks they'll regret it once the apocalypse starts. He then closes the warehouse door to start storing everything in his space. With that, all preparations are finally ready. Back at the hotel with Wang Dahai, the guy he borrowed money from. Wan Hoyu pulls Xiaoqian aside and tells her not to pay attention to that loser Su Chen anymore. She should stick with him all the time anyway. She's gnashing her teeth, saying she's looking forward to his performance tonight. And Wang tells her not to worry, he'll ask his brother Dahai to deal with that guy for her. Kian thinks that Wang isn't really that bad after all, plus he has his influential brother. He's definitely better than that loser. Just then, Su-chen says she really throws herself at anyone. She's startled and asks what he's doing there, while Wang points at him and tells his brother it was this guy who hit him. Da-hai says he didn't expect it to be this guy here, and Wang asks if he knows that guy. Da-hai explains that this kid borrowed 600,000 from him and has to pay it back by tomorrow. Wang says that's perfect, they can settle these two things. While Xiaoqian is now happily saying she really got rid of a loser, especially one who owes money to Da-hai's brother. Su-chen says it really is impossible to have a good meal in that place, and Da-hai reminds him that the payment date is tomorrow. Why is he here in this hotel acting like everything's fine? Wang shouts at his brother not even to talk to this guy since he hit him. Shinru then appears and asks what's going on and if they can resolve it. Da-hai says if she forces that kid to kneel down and apologize, they can let it slide for today. She then asks Su-chen what's going on. He says it's just some pests bothering him. Da-hai then bangs on the table, saying he was only calm because his payment is due tomorrow. But from afar, a guy with a goatee asks what's going on and who let him cause trouble here. Su-chen and Da-hai recognize this guy as Gao Kang. Da-hai starts apologizing, asking what he's doing here. Gao Kang says he has important matters to discuss here today, and it's not for him to cause trouble. Da-hai knows this guy is an entrepreneur, but is involved in various underworld activities, and he has a lot of people under his command, so it's really not good to go against him. And with that, he apologizes, saying he'll come back later. Su-chen recognizes this guy as Skull Crusher, and in the apocalypse, this guy became one of the most powerful forces, and he even had the boss of Hell working for him. Su-chen remembers that this hotel was one of the first places where some people with powers appeared, and maybe he got so strong because of something that will happen here. Gao Qiang stares at him while Su-chen thinks whatever opportunity arises in this hotel, he'll seize it. Sometime later, Gao Qiang is taking Duan Ya to meet someone named Mr. Sun, and she asks what this guy wants to discuss with her. Mr. Sun says he was looking forward to meeting the wonderful Miss Duan and then serves her a drink. Duan realizes there's something wrong with that glass, clearly containing some kind of drug. While Su-chen remembers in his past life he hid in the basement with Xiaoqian and barely survived. He never expected that in this life he would kick her and she would still follow him here. But this is the perfect opportunity for revenge. Looking at the pool where the two brothers are going to refresh themselves, saying that tonight is strangely hot, but it's worth it since the girls will come in bikinis. They then appear and look at the moon, saying it's strangely bright. It's shining as much as the daytime sun. At that moment, Wang declares his love for her, while Su-chen in the room says their love is really about to explode. With the glass to the moon, he welcomes the apocalypse. The moon then begins to tremble and emit a red aura. Everyone outside feels something strange and their skin begins to burn. They all start running back to the hotel, saying something's wrong. Why is the moonlight burning so much? Inside the hotel, people are confused. It's night, but it's very bright. At that moment, the three of them are running, and everyone is scared. Their skin is already red. They are desperate, looking for somewhere to cool down. They then see an aquarium, run to it, knock it over, and jump in to relieve the pain. The hotel staff ask what's going on and where is Da-hai's brother. At that moment, Wang remembers his brother, who appears at the door with his skin all burnt. In the room, Mr. Sun is asking Duan why she's not drinking, and Gao Qiang says they prepared a banquet, so why don't they go there now? But Mr. Sun tells him that in this city, nobody can refuse to drink the wine he pours into the glass. Duan gets angry, thinking Gao Qiang set her up. He's so eager to raise his social status that he handed her over to this Mr. Sun. She knows this Sun Debiao very well. He's a guy who's invincible in the city of Shangu and has harmed many women. And today she became his target. She's absolutely sure there's something wrong with this wine, so she can't drink it. But what will she do? Right at that moment, the moon starts burning the three of them, and they close the curtain wondering what's happening. Mr. Sun says they'd better go down to understand better, and Duan feels relieved to get out of the situation. In the lobby, Shinru is trying to calm everyone down, saying the rescue teams must be coming. Gao Qiang asks one of his henchmen what's going on. He explains that suddenly the moon shone red and the temperature outside rose by over 70 degrees. In the news, they're saying that a lot of people have already been injured and burned. Mr. Sun calls the minister and asks them to send someone to pick him up. However, sometime later he tells Gao Qiang that unfortunately it seems they're having some problems and won't be able to make it. Meanwhile, Da-hai is in agony with his entire skin burned. People are trying to apply some burn ointments, but it's not enough. Not to mention he needs to be taken to a hospital, but with his high temperature outside, it will be impossible. He says he'll call a friend to come pick him up. The friend answers the phone, saying it's in the middle of nowhere, but okay, he'll come. As soon as he leaves the garage, he sees it's too hot and gets confused. The heat is so intense that the tires burst, and gets out of the car, calls his friend to let him know he'll be delayed, and runs away. However, the sole of his shoe melts and he slips and falls to the ground. Looking sideways, he sees another person lying there, already a dry corpse. He gets scared and tries to get up without realizing that half of his face is already on the asphalt. Everyone in the hotel is startled when he screams on the phone. While all this is happening, our protagonist is in his room with controlled temperature. He's sleeping soundly in bed, and government announcements are already being made. Due to the intense heat emitted by the moon, temperatures have risen by over 75 degrees, with the ground reaching over 100. The event has already resulted in hundreds of casualties. Please stay indoors to avoid skin and respiratory burns. At that moment, one of the power plants explodes due to excess heat, cutting off some communications. Dahai says he lost contact with his friends. While everyone is in the last room left in the hotel, Shaoqian and Lena are complaining that they don't want to stay in a room full of men. But at that moment, the power goes out. And with that, the air conditioning also stops working and everyone starts taking off their shirts, dying of heat. Xiaoqian remembers that Su Chen's room has a pool. Meanwhile, our protagonist is swimming peacefully. He already knew the power would go out because of the explosion in the power plants. And that's also why he chose a room specifically with a pool, in addition to vertical air conditioners and giant batteries to ensure the temperature. But he's also missing some ice here. He changes, sits on the sofa, thinking it's very nice now. He's hungry, so he sets up a banquet on the table. As it's the first day of the apocalypse, he needs a small breakfast, while wondering when that Gao Qiang will have the chance to gain powers. Someone knocks on the door, saying they know he's in there. Our protagonist knows that with the power to teleport and the preparations he made, he doesn't need to worry. So to cause anger and envy, he decides to open the room. As soon as the door begins to open, a cold breeze comes out and everyone feels an indescribable relief, wondering, why does it seem so nice in there and why does he have air conditioning? Su Chen asks if they need anything. Wang points out to everyone that he has ice, a pool, food, and electricity. Lina and Xiaoqian start shouting at him, asking how he dares to let them burn outside all day while he's living in luxury. He better leave that room now. Dahai tells him the time to pay back everything he owed has come, so he better hand over that room. But the moment he steps into the room, he takes a shot in the stomach. Dahai is shocked when he sees the wound, and Su Chen warns that if he takes another step, he'll die. Everyone is trembling now. Does he really have a gun? Dahai is outraged, asking where he got that. But another shot is heard in the room, and everyone is scared when Dahai falls to the ground, now with a wound in his leg. Su Chen points outside, saying whoever wants to die can stay there, and he'll give them 3 seconds. Whoever is in his line of sight will go to the next life. Meanwhile, Gao Qiang is talking to Xinru, asking how is it possible for such a large hotel not to have any food. She apologizes, saying they recently had a banquet for over 1,000 people, and the ingredients and food were scheduled to arrive today. At this moment, Mr. Sun, pouring water over his body, commands her to bring all the water and food she has right away. Families start to become outraged by the water waste he's causing, and a war breaks out in the lobby. Just then, Dahai arrives with his injuries, and everyone warns that Su Chen shot someone. Seeing the wound, Gao Qiang wonders, is there someone with a gun in this place? Seems like there's a tough guy living upstairs. Xiaoqian then informs everyone that Su Chen's room has electricity, air conditioning, and even a pool. People surround her, asking if she's not lying, if she's sure. She affirms they can believe her. He even has an ice cube and plenty of food. So everyone decides to go to his room. Meanwhile, Gao Qiang sends one of his henchmen to take a look as well. Once again, he opens the door, asking what they want, and everyone feels the refreshing cool air touching their skin. It seems like paradise in there. The crowd outside pleads for him to be kind and take care of the elderly, stating that since it's a hotel emergency, he should share everything he has with everyone. The chubby little boy spots some fried chicken and jumps to grab it. However, he's stopped with a kick to the belly and is sent flying. Su Chen warns the parents to take care of the kids or he'll have to do it for them. People are outraged, asking how he dares to hit a child. He's truly a murderer and doesn't deserve to stay in that room. Everyone starts to enter. However, at that moment, he shoots the guy in the back who falls to the ground. Su Chen warns that he may be alone, but everyone there only has one life. He knows the situation seems dangerous, but at any moment, he can jump through the portal and disappear. Downstairs, Wang is furious. After his brother suffered 2 gunshot wounds, the crowd threw his body out because he was already dying and decomposing. Wine is saying they have to kill that damn Su Chen. Meanwhile, in Su Chen's room, Xiaoqian and Lina are sweating and dripping with heat as they're asking to come in, saying they're sure he wouldn't have the courage to shoot them, and that they love him very much and are sure he loves them. If he lets them stay there for a little while, they promise to join him in a 2-against-1 adventure all night long. Su Chen says that since they want to work together so eagerly, he'll let them in. They're all happy and disbelieving, but suddenly, Wang passes between them, hitting them, saying he'll kill him. When he's about to touch Su Chen, he takes a blow to the face, collides with the two, and everyone falls to the ground. Seeing Wang beaten in their arms, they're afraid to enter the room, and Su Chen says, "Just go away from here." They leave, and he says he's just playing for now, but if anyone tries anything, the artillery robot he has installed will sort everything out in seconds. Tanks are seen outside the hotel, and everyone believes it's the rescue team. They leave armed and wearing protective clothing. Upon entering the hotel, they ask if someone named Liu Xingo is there. The guy introduces himself, and they then tell him to put on the insulation suit and come with them. Everyone asks to be rescued together. However, the soldier assures them to stay calm. The rescue operation will take place tonight at midnight in Silicon Valley Square. The residents celebrate, saying the government really hasn't abandoned them. Meanwhile, Mr. Sun says he'll pay $1 billion if they take him now. However, he's restrained by one of the soldiers who tells him not to interfere with the operation. Mr. Sun tells Gao Kang to do something, but clearly, with so much aimed at him, there's no way. At that moment, Xiaoqian grabs one of the soldiers and says there's a killer living upstairs, and Lina says he's already killed a bunch of people and will soon finish everyone here. They need to save the people in the hotel. A soldier named Xiao Feng then says he'll take a look, and his friend tells him to be careful and not act impulsively. He takes his gun and starts climbing the stairs toward the room. While Xiaoqian is thinking this is the perfect situation. As soon as this guy kills Su Chen, she'll steal that room for herself. Xiao Feng cautiously walks down the hallway, observing every corner until he notices a camera looking at him. Suddenly, Su Chen opens the door and throws a flashbang. Before he could understand what's happening, it explodes in his face, blinding him. A sleeping gas falls at his feet, and when he crouches, Su Chen appears from behind and hits him on the head. Sometime later, he wakes up in the room, not understanding what's happening and why it's so cold. Su Chen tells him, "Your name is Luke Xiao Feng, and you're a captain of the Special Forces. Now that you're awake, let's talk." Xiao Feng looks around at the ice cubes and asks what's going on here, who he is, and where he got those grenades and weapons. Su Chen says he's just a regular guy who just graduated, and he got those weapons on a trip to the Middle East. Su Chen then asks if the government set the rescue points for tomorrow morning, and Xiao Feng is surprised by the fact that he already knows that information. Su Chen realizes it's all going to be the same as in the past life and warns Xiao Feng that even though the temperature is lower at midnight, people can't stand more than 10 minutes outside. The vast majority will die just trying to reach the rescue point. Xiao Feng says they have no choice since many people are starving in their homes who can't stand the heat anymore. Their only chance is to reach the rescue point, and since it's difficult to modify the vehicles, there's no time to rescue everyone indoors. At least if they put some blankets over their heads, maybe they can make it. Su Chen then suddenly puts his hand on his shoulder and points the gun. Xiao Feng asks him to calm down and says all he wants is to at least warn everyone to go with blankets. Su Chen then cuts the rope and says he's free since he respects the fact that he's saving lives. But it's good he doesn't try to come in here again. Xiao Feng asks if he's not afraid he'll come back with other people, but Su Chen shows him there's no need to be afraid. And Xiao Feng recognizes it right away. It's a camera with facial recognition and a built-in automatic machine gun. He wants to know where Su Chen got it, but Su Chen says he already said the Middle East. Now he better leave the room because he doesn't have time to deal with this anymore. Xiao Feng accepts and leaves back to the tank. Mr. Sun gets angry, thinking that not even the damn soldier could deal with the guy. He hits Gao Qian, saying he really can't do anything. Gao Qian's henchmen ask if they really won't do anything and will tolerate this guy. Gao Qian explains that after everyone is rescued, they'll still need the connections. It's dangerous to act now. At that moment, Su Chen appears and says, "In times of chaos, you're still dreaming of restoring order." The henchman gets angry, but Gao Qian tells him to calm down and asks why Su Chen came down. Su Chen then shows a bucket of ice, saying he came here to negotiate. The henchman tells Gao Qian it's good to kill that kid now and take everything he has in the room. But Su Chen points the gun, and the guy gives up the idea. Gao Qian then says they should talk business, and he hands over the edible ice to both of them. When they eat it, they're impressed with how delicious it is. Gao Qian now also wants to kill Su Chen to take everything he has. But first, they'll meet his demands. At that moment, Mr. Sun kicks him in the stomach, saying he's a damn liar for hiding those ice cubes and starts stepping on him, saying if he hides anything else, he'll die. Gao-kun is losing it, and Mr. Sun sees Du-won sitting, saying she's a very modest girl. Everyone is about to die of heat, and she hasn't even had the courage to take off her clothes. But he grabs her arm, saying he's tired of seeing her attitude, and he's in the mood to do certain things, so she better follow him. Du-won slaps him in the face, calling him a bastard. But suddenly, Sun rips her shirt, saying for her disobedience, he'll take advantage first, and then everyone will do what they want. She falls to the ground scared, and he says she's sweating a lot and he's just doing her a favor. Until Gao-qian appears behind him, saying enough of this. Sun turns to say something, but Gao-qian punches him in the neck with a closed hand, breaking it instantly. He falls to the ground dead, and Gao-qian says Su-chen is right. Indeed, this place is already chaos and people like him have to die with it, and then warns that this place is now under his control. Whoever doesn't want to obey will go to the rescue point or die here. Upstairs, Su-chen observes, saying that apparently his words were effective. Gao-qian was already the boss of this place in the past lives, so he just sped things up. And with that, the two of them have already been thrown out. Gao-qian then starts drinking the ice Su-chen gave him, while Xiaoqian and Lina beg for a little peace, saying they'll do whatever he wants. He throws it to them, saying it's okay. He'll give them some, but they better obey any demand. His henchman asks if they're not going to the rescue point, and Gao-qian says it's too far. It's not certain they'll survive. The henchman asks why he wants these women if they're running out of resources. Gao-qian says it's all part of a plan to deal with Su-chen. At midnight, Lina and Xiaoqian try to leave, covering themselves with blankets, but the henchman comes and takes everything off them. Xiaoqian asks what he thinks he's doing, but the henchman warns that now that they've taken the ice, they'll have to stay with him for a while. Those who decided not to obey Gao-qian because he didn't provide supplies are trying to reach the rescue point. But even though it's midnight, the ground is much hotter than they imagined. They're trying to protect their feet with a piece of wood, but it makes it difficult to walk, and one of them stumbles. Upon contact with the ground, their hand and face melt, leaving the survivor behind to die. Meanwhile, Dahei's body, which was burning on the ground until now, wakes up with red eyes. From the balcony, Su-chen observes everything, remembering that in the past life, he almost died on this walk. Xiaoqian and Lina say they can do whatever he wants, but why don't they at least go to the room? The henchman says they're being too shy, there's no need to try to hide. But suddenly the glass shatters, and the two chubby guys who were burned come running after everyone. Wang thinks they're zombies and asks if they'll turn too if they're bitten. Gao-qian says they need to figure it out, then grabs him by the neck and throws him to the two creatures. Wang's back is burned just by making contact with the creatures, and Su-chen appears with a blade, telling everyone to get out of the way. The henchman can't believe he wants to deal with these monsters, and Gao-qian is eager, thinking that as soon as Su-chen kills the two, he'll kill him and take everything from him. Su-chen knows that bodies exposed to heat turn into zombies, but they don't share any virus. You could say they're more like drought demons. The difference is that these demons retain some memories from their past life. Su-chen stands still, and Mr. Sun passes by him and goes towards Gao-qian. That's because he was killed by him. But Wang Dahei was killed by Su-chen and attacks him. However, seeing this situation, he's sure that the chance for Gao-qian to awaken some powers by killing Mr. Sun. So he goes in his direction and cuts off his chance. A purple crystal comes out of his body. And that's a kind of core that can evolve a human body. He grabs the crystal, jumps back, and pushes Dahai towards everyone. With that, he goes up the stairs and tells them to have fun. Gao-qian grabs the guy on the ground again and throws him towards the creature. Back in his room, Su-chen says these crystals are extremely rare. He puts it in a glass and drinks it since that's the absorption method. The body extracts the energy from the crystal and strengthens itself. His eyes turn red and he starts screaming while all his clothes burn. He falls on the ground on top of an ice block, while in the lobby the drought demon has finished all their water. Now without anything to drink or eat, Lina wants to escape. But the henchman stops her, saying she's not going to run away. At that moment, Lina says they should use Xiaoqian. She was Su-chen's wife, and if they throw her at the door, it's certain he'll open it, and then they can try to steal something from him. The henchman says it's a great idea, and Xiaoqian says she'll help, but she wants to eat meat first. The henchman says there's no meat since the refrigerators have been off for days. Gao-qian looks at her and asks if she wants meat, then he has a solution. They restrain Lina, and he warns her that if she wants to, she'll have to do it. Xiaoqian is shocked, asking if he means they're going to eat her meat. While Lina is trembling, Xiaoqian is going towards her. Lina pleads, saying, "What are you doing? You're not going to do that, are you?" But Xiaoqian goes to her face and says she just betrayed her by talking about her being Su-chen's wife. Since she did that, she deserves it, and then strikes 3 times. Gao-qian and the henchmen are even scared to see how she did that without hesitation. Xiaoqian is going crazy, saying that when she's full, she'll go up and drink Su Chen's blood. The henchman looks at Gao Qian and asks if they're really going to do that. Gao Qian says to call the boss Duan quickly, or else they'll dry up. Meanwhile, in the room, Su Chen is jumping around with his new body. Not only is he more resistant to heat, but he's also more agile and strong. At that moment, he sees Duan at the door. Standing at the entrance, she's thinking it's getting crazy down there. She doesn't have a chance of surviving if she stays there, so she has to try her luck and use what's left of her value to get something here. Right at that moment, Su Chen opens the door naked, and she gets scared. She screams and he apologizes, saying it was unintentional. He was excited about some news. In the room, he then tells her that even though he has resources, it's limited, and besides, they just met and he can't accept her just because she's beautiful, right? He remembers that in the past life, she was a very smart woman. Furthermore, she formed a cooperative relationship with Gao Qian. However, even though he had thought about having her around, the atmosphere feels strange now. Duan then tells him that she's not just a cook, she's also a doctor who has been working as a surgeon for 3 years. She's thinking that his room is extremely well equipped. Not only does it have electricity, but it also has ice and food. She needs to demonstrate her worth to stay here. On the sofa, Su Chen acknowledges that being a doctor is indeed a good proposition. However, as she knows, resources are extremely scarce, and it's uncertain if they'll survive until tomorrow. Feeling uncertain upon hearing this, she says that as long as he doesn't kick her out of the room, she'll do whatever he wants. Upon hearing his proposal, Su Chen immediately states that this is her new home. She feels embarrassed, thinking she said that a bit hastily and unintentionally. Su Chen warns her that her only choice is to behave. If he catches her planning something behind his back, their relationship will end. Duan assures him that she understands and will never doubt any of his methods or determination. Su Chen then suggests that she can demonstrate her determination by undressing. She was embarrassed, asking if they were going to start now. Taking a shower, she thought that with water, electricity, food, and still not having to worry about the weather, that place was simply heaven for anyone. The only problem was that Su Chen wasn't exactly a saint. He grabbed her by the chin and said he was going to give her something different to eat. After 7 days of starvation, Duan opened her mouth expecting anything she would receive. While she thought she knew very well the direction this was going to take, she was prepared the moment she entered the room. Su Chen was just like us, watching on his phone screen. With a mischievous smile, he said he wasn't doing that just to spy, it was to prevent her from doing improper things. She then came out of the bathroom wearing heels. Heavens above, thank goodness she's a doctor, because I'm sure that some hearts stopped. She even asked Su Chen if it wasn't too short. He told her to turn around and she blushed. And with that, he analyzed it in an extremely meticulous clinical way and concluded that it was perfect. Suddenly, someone was knocking on the door asking for help. It seemed to be Gao Fang holding Xiao Kang, but he had big teeth. Duan said he couldn't open the door since those guys had eaten Lena down there. If they let them in, they might be eaten too. Su Chen asked her if they really had eaten someone. Outside, the 3 guys were restraining Xiao Kang, while Su Chen appeared in the background telling them not to break people's doors. They looked at Su Chen with a bunch of veins on their faces and giant teeth. It seemed like everyone was transforming. What Su Chen didn't know was that there was a guy right next to the door. Suddenly, he attacked with Minecraft blade right in Su Chen's face, but he easily grabbed the arm and managed to immobilize the guy. Gao Chang and his henchmen were halfway transformed and couldn't believe he dodged that. Suddenly, Xiao Chang broke free from them and ran towards Su Chen. She reached out for help, saying he needed to save her, but he grabbed her by the neck and clearly she was also transforming. And Su Chen explained that those who consume human flesh in this new world now transform. So clearly she's no longer human to be saved. Gao Fang said it was the end of the world, so it didn't matter if they were eating someone as long as they could survive. And Xiao Kang, even immobilized, said the meat was delicious and her body was filled with energy. She tried to attack Su Chen, saying she was eager to taste him, but she received a kick and was ejected from the door of the room to the other side. It broke even the window, falling outside the building. But she managed to hold on at the last moment and started climbing, saying that Su Chen wouldn't get away so easily. But that's when she noticed it. She was getting hit by the scorching sun and started to burn. Su Chen was calmly with his hand in his pocket, while the 3 thugs ran towards him, saying he couldn't be given the chance to pull out a weapon. But calmly, Su Chen asked why they thought you would waste bullets. Suddenly, one of them jumped in Su Chen's face, saying he was underestimating them too much. And the sneaky guy pulled out the Minecraft weapon and said he likes to waste it, and he hit the guy right in the head. Even though they were monsters, they kept their consciousness, so they came up with a plan to spread out and attack him from all directions. While Su Chen finished off one coming from the front, the other thug was already above on the ceiling. Warning that not only were they faster, but their reaction time was also much better. With one attacking from each side, he took advantage to go over and warned Su Chen. that it was the end for him. He was confident that with a punch he would finish the boy and steal everything he had. But Su Chen jumped and caught him halfway, asking if he had finished talking. And with that, they both fell, with Su Chen smashing his head on the ground. Another Minecraft blade came for him. But Su Chen was a pro and easily blocked it. With a single move, he disarmed one of the zombies and took out the other one beside. Gao Qian took advantage of this opening to try to land a punch, but his neck was also grabbed and Su Chen slammed him against the wall. But that's when something else was coming from the corridor. Even Su Chen seemed to be startled by what he saw. It was Xiao Qian completely transformed into a drop demon. She jumped from the glass and approached Su Chen. He recognized her and called her by her name. Seeing the transformation, he said she transformed too quickly, so apparently her dependencies are deep. As he finished off Gao Qian, he said since she wouldn't disappear, he would finish her off again. And with that, Gao Qian was lifeless. Transformed Xiao Qian let out a monstrous scream. Inside the room, Duan was getting impressed. I'm also very impressed with her, goddammit. Saying that Su Chen was too incredible, he was dealing with the entire Gao Qian gang alone. But seeing that creature in the corridor, she knew that was much more dangerous than the others. She knew that if she wanted to stay by his side for a long time, she couldn't be a burden to him. So she called Su Chen's name, who turned to see what it was. He was confused by her saying she would help. He said if she didn't get scared and hide, that was already good. But if she came out armed like that with so much thickness, he would be very distracted in combat. She was kind of confused until she realized she was indeed an impressive doctor. Meanwhile, Xiao Qian was making some noises, until she let out a big scream and jumped towards Su Chen with her mouth open. He was surprised and turned to see her coming. But it was too late. He took a blow right on the shoulder. Duan was startled and called out his name. But at that moment, Su Chen had already activated his berserker power and her claws only made small scratches. Xiao Qian turned around disbelievingly. In a quick move using her tail, she reached Su Chen's back. And taking advantage that he was immobile, she bit him right on the shoulder. But her teeth couldn't penetrate his skin, which seemed as hard as steel. She couldn't understand what just happened. Su Chen asked if her teeth were just for decoration, but warned that now it was his turn. He grabbed one arm and then the other. He jumped backwards to her back, immobilizing her. He pressed his foot on her spine, and with her unable to react, he asked if she was ready. With that, he pulled both her arms out, while jumping and slamming her on the ground. Xiao Qian fell to the ground in agony, and Su Chen stylishly landed behind her with the toothpicks in his hand. Tossing the remains away, he said he was planning to make her suffer much more in this apocalypse. But now that she's like this, she forced him to finish her off as quickly as possible. But suddenly, he noticed something. Using her tail, Xiao Qian grabbed one of the bodies on the ground. She opened her monster mouth and started swallowing the guy. Her mouth stretched all the way to the side of her spine, and her body could regenerate. Pulling her left arm, he said they would start with that one. From the other side of her ear, he said it was now the turn of the right arm and pulled another one. The monster was agonizing. Tossing the four limbs up, she fell to the ground battered. But she easily regenerated. As soon as she was back to 100%, Su Chen said the first round was over. But she'd better get ready because the second was about to begin. From the room, Duan watched everything, the rain of limbs being thrown everywhere, while Su Chen kept finishing her off. She regenerated once again, and it was time for the third round. He continued removing each of her limbs and the tail. And with that came the fourth round, the fifth round. He began testing removing other parts, and after many experiments, Xiao Qian was on the ground crying, while Su Chen said he was already satisfied he wasn't a demon. But the little humanity left in her made her ask why she was being treated like this. Su Chen didn't like that question, especially because he remembered very well what she did to him in the past, when he did everything for her and was stabbed in the back. And then he went to step on her, saying it was revenge. And with one step, it was the end of Xiao Qian. Disbelieving and scared of what she saw, Duan asked if he was okay and if he was sane. But Su Chen ignored her question and only wanted to know if she was ready. Amidst that chaos, she was confused and asked ready for what. Su Chen approached her from behind and said he had been so heroic now. Shouldn't she reward him? Duan seemed to agree because she only asked if it would be right there. In another part of the city, at a rescue point, someone said the temperatures seemed to be normalizing. With open hands, this person wondered if it was the end of the apocalypse, when suddenly Xiaofeng appeared a little embarrassed, calling for the captain. He warned that there was a crowd of survivors approaching the rescue point, and the captain took a look. With short hair and carrying 3 giant weapons, she observed what was coming. They weren't survivors, but zombies that had already been transformed into drop demons. As soon as the captain noticed this, her pupils contracted. The demons began to run towards them, and she warned to evacuate all civilians from that place. But the zombie crowd seemed endless, and Xiaofeng begged the captain not to die while defending her at the front line. She told him to shut up and advance to the rescue point. Meanwhile, Su Shen said now she would experience the power of the berserker. But Juwen said she had already experienced that berserker power many times and asked how many times they had done it. Su Shen warned her that the extreme heat waves would ease off for now, and he wanted to go out to resolve something. So he needed to leave her with unforgettable memories. Timidly and hesitantly, Juwen asked if she couldn't go with him. Su Shen seemed to ignore her question and only said that the people around him first needed to meet two conditions. They needed to be valuable and absolutely obey any order. And she replied that she understood. Another berserker adventure begins. With that, night fell and Su Shen said Juwen had completely submitted to him. He knew he had to return soon before the Great Tsunamis began. In the past life, the excess of people moving towards the rescue point caused large hordes of zombies that ended up destroying that place. Many civilians and soldiers died in that concentration. Moreover, this caused Minecraft weapons to fall into the hands of several people. Suddenly, three guys appear in front of him and told him to stop the car or he will suffer the consequences. From inside, Su Shen seemed unfazed, wondering if that guy was crazy to ask a car to stop like that. With that, he and lightly tapped the guys, sending them flying. Very friendly, our protagonist put the three to sleep peacefully on the asphalt. Su Shen knew it would be the same as before. The excessive heat and the wave of zombies caused the collapse of the subway underground. As many people ran to the deepest part to escape the heat, tens of thousands died there. Observing the bottom of the subway, several red eyes stared at him. That's because the sound of the car was attracting everyone. Unfortunately, it wasn't worth hunting power crystals since you would have to look into each of their heads. And with so many down there, it would take too much time. He then decided to take a look at the situation at the school, while remembering that he hadn't been to this place since his graduation from the engineering university. Night had fallen again when Su Shen stored his car in the dimensional space. He entered a building and came face to face with two transformed creatures. They were chained by collars around their necks. And from the back on the sofa, three guys seemed calm. And the boss said that for Su Shen to enter their territory, he would have to drop that backpack on his back. Su Shen took out a chicken leg from the bottom of the backpack, asking if those guys could help him and offering some of the food. They couldn't believe someone had chicken leg at a time like this. The boss immediately said he would definitely help him, just throw those chicken legs. Su Shen smiled and threw the chicken leg. Right in the middle of the two dropped demons, hunger took over and the three guys tried to lunge to compete for the chicken leg. But it was tied by a string, and the three were startled when Su Shen started pulling. He apologized, saying the three didn't deserve to eat something so good. They grabbed his weapons to finish Su Shen, but Su Shen grabbed the Minecraft one to sort everything out. And three loud sounds echoed in that room. Surely it was a very good sleep-inducing weapon because the three boys went into an eternal sleep, while Su Shen couldn't remember so many idiots surviving in the past life. Maybe the tips he's giving to other people have affected the world more than he thinks. He heads to the reptile and snake laboratory door. Grabbing the padlock on the door, he easily destroys it, saying apparently not many people come to this place, as most of the creatures there had already died. The smell of death filled the place. Seeing that it had devoured several others, he understood how it survived. In the past life, this was one of the first creatures to undergo the atavistic change, which means reverting to an ancestral form. He knows that in a week the floods will begin, and that's when this monster will transform. If he can't prevent it, it will cause a lot of trouble. Seeing that it keeps staring at him, Su Shen thinks that it seems to have already developed some consciousness. Suddenly, he hears a sound and realizes someone is there. Just behind the door, some armed men prepare to enter. They shout that they know Su Shen is inside and order him to come out now. The protagonist calmly comes out, saying he's at a critical moment and can't be disturbed. However, suddenly he notices something. A girl with gray hair approaches, and the guys seem to recognize her. Before they can react, she jumps towards them, putting one in a neck hold and another in a leg lock. Before the other guy can react, she falls next to him and climbs onto his back. A quick hand movement and another one is down. However, someone points a Nerf gun to her head, saying her moves weren't bad. She quickly reacts, elbowing the person's hand and raising both legs to trap Su Shen. However, when she tries to apply pressure to break his head, he doesn't move. And the guy doesn't even react, right? He's taking deep breaths. A minute later, he points the Nerf gun again and asks who she is, now tied up. If it was just to immobilize, there was no need for all that show. But it seems he tied her up for something more. She introduces herself as Bai Kang from the Special Operations Team and warns Su Shen that he better let her go. He ignores what she said and asks if she knows Xiaofeng, also from the Special Forces. She is surprised that he knows the guy, and Su Shen says he once saved that kid's life. With a delicious piece of meat being prepared, Su Shen says he understands everything. It seems that a group of fugitives took control of the school and are using several people as hostages. Kang says it all happened very quickly when Xiao Feng was rescuing some prisoners. Calmly eating his meat, Su Shen says that if that's the case, it's not her fault. She says that now with these powers, those people are nothing to fear. However, she wants to know when she will be freed from these ropes. Strangely, Su Shen says he will only release her if she traps him with her leg again. Man, this guy doesn't stop. She says she agrees to do it if he gives her a piece of meat. Sometime later, the rope was cut. What happened? I have no idea. But Su Shen handed her a weapon, saying there is a lot to resolve, so he can't help for now. He tells her to leave and stop being a pain. However, Kang says she will attack the guy's base. Without the resources they stole, the survivors won't have anything to eat. She insists, saying this might be the last time they see each other. Hearing that the guys have several supplies, Su Shen tells her to wait. He goes through his bag and pulls out an AWM, saying that Xiao Feng is her brother, so he will be a little help. Meanwhile, in the administrative block of the school, in a room there are several armed guys and another with 2 girls on his lap. He asks how things are going. One of the henchmen says everyone is waiting outside. This time they will be able to finish off all the students. The boss says that's good to hear and tells them to put those who disobey on the front line so they die quickly. Suddenly, the door is kicked in. Everyone is startled and Su Shen appears, apologizing for interrupting the meeting. One of the henchmen asks how he got there when there are more than 20 guards in the building. Su Shen says he will calmly explain how he got in. He points his finger at one of the guys and says, "Bang!" The guy's head explodes. Everyone in the room is shocked, wondering how it's possible for someone to kill another person just by pointing a finger. Su Shen continues pointing at everyone and warns that anyone who moves will die. The boss angrily tells him to shut up. However, from somewhere else, a person with a sniper rifle says the target has been eliminated. It's Bai Kang from the top of a building with the AWM. But she's insecure, as Su Shen is alone there and there are a lot of dangerous people in that place. For her, this plan of his to go alone is very risky. However, when Su Shen handed over the weapon, these were exactly the orders he gave. She wonders how she had the courage to trust something so foolish. Suddenly, when she aims, the curtains are closed. She screams to Su Shen, asking what's happening and why the curtains were closed. She hears that the people in the room seem to have figured out it was a sniper doing the job. She runs out now, sure that her location has been discovered. She runs down the stairs, hoping Su Shen is okay, running desperately while hearing in her earpiece that they are sending people to kill him. The poor girl is almost losing her mind. She bursts through the door, saying she's here for revenge. However, the henchmen are all on the ground as Su Shen is holding the boss by the neck. He warns that there are no supplies there. He rummages through his inventory while the boss says it's better not to kill him. If he does, he will be hunted by the rest of the group. Su Shen gives him a chiropractic session and cracks his neck, saying not to worry because everyone will join him soon enough. Bai Kang asks if he really did all that by himself. Su Shen says he's been exercising a lot. He says there are no supplies left there. She is confused and wonders if someone else got there before them and stole everything. Obviously, there are no supplies in that room because Su Shen has already stored them all in his dimensional space. He thinks he'll only share with others if he's sure how they'll act. He then says it's time for them to go to the girls' dormitory. She asks why specifically theirs. Su Shen says he got this information from the boss. However, in that same room among the hanging bodies was a girl who had just transformed. A bald man with a bever appears, saying that the damn girl was causing trouble again. He wonders if she's still alive. He approaches the tied-up girl and says it's a shame if she's dead. With that, they drop her to the ground. The guy says that Sister G has been pretending to be captured for several days and asks if she has found what she's looking for. She says she's very shaken because she almost died and needs some comfort from the Steel Fang. The guy says if that's the case, he'll help. He caresses her back with the whip. He asks how she's feeling, and she says she's much better now. He says that apparently she must have seen everything and asks who took his supplies. She warns that the guy was a demon, and he says he'll make him pay. Ji then reveals that the guy's name was Su Shen. After saying anything, a tooth falls into her hand and she asks how he dared to do that. However, strangely, everyone is against her, saying she's been monopolizing everything in the dormitory for a long time. They say it's good to kick her out of that place. Su Shen says she seems quite infamous around here. She yells at him, saying she'll find her father and make sure everyone there dies. Seeing the girl leave, Bai Kang asks if it's okay to let her go like that. Su Shen says she's going to find her father and asks if she wants to stop that. As Fan King is leaving the school, cursing Su Shen and saying he should be beneath her, a hand grabs her from behind. It was this Steel Fang asking where Su Shen was. The protagonist was leaving as he was going to let the army handle the evacuation, since the most important thing was to kill the Golden King Cobra as soon as it mutates. After all, it had the ability to manipulate water, which would be very useful for him. Suddenly, Sushin heard someone calling his name and asking for help. He recognized it as Fang King's voice and wondered what she was doing. However, he found her hanging by a rope and questioned if she had found her father so quickly. The guy in the background introduced himself as the Steel Fang from the Evolution Federation. He told Sushen he thought he was a more powerful die. Xiaofeng and Bai Kang hear a loud noise. She realizes it's coming from the direction Sushen went and tells Xiaofeng to keep an eye on things there. However, he says he won't stay either. He wants to go along to help in case something happened. Up ahead, Sushen is calm. The Steel Fang says that girl was from his university. Why doesn't he take the chance to play the hero and save the princess? Just kneel, and he'll leave the girl there. Sushen, pensive, says saving her is not impossible. Fang King gets excited and says he's amazing and asks him to kneel then. But then he says they have a little problem. She asks what kind of problem it is that will prevent her from being saved and starts yelling, saying he said he would save her, so he can't go back on his word and has to be a real man. Sushen explains that he is not a man who deserves to save her. He tells her to call the guys who always bootlicked her and went to the protests to come and save her here. Fang King yells at him, saying it seems he's trying to get revenge just because she said he was an inferior person. She says she won't apologize or beg to be saved. She calls him a pathetic loser and says she doesn't need him. Sushen smiles and tells her to remember what she's saying. As Fang King looks down, a bunch of dry zombies are surrounding her. Being consumed, she starts screaming, saying she was wrong and asking for help. But now she's gone. The Steel Fang says he's crazy and didn't even try to help the princess. But that's okay since he'll join her soon. He applies a powder to his face and says it's a new item they created. With it, you can control those demons. Sushen says it's just the ashes of those monsters' skeletons. Even the fool of the Steel Fang didn't know that and says it's really a disgusting thing. But he immediately orders all of them to attack Sushen. He prepares, pulls out a blade in one hand, a blade in the other. In a second, a bunch of purple cuts are drawn on the creatures and Sushen passes through. He falls to the ground and the blades disappear. The guy says it looks like he wants to play before dying. However, he gets startled when he sees that Sushen is already right in front of him. In the background, Bai Kang and Xiaofeng were watching everything. They were shocked to see that Sushen was completely surrounded, and from the top of the truck, the guy kept shouting for the monsters to attack Sushen but wondered why they were standing still. Sushen told him to stop shouting because it was useless. The guy asked what he meant by that, and Sushen explained that he had already dealt with them all. The Steel Fang was shocked, saying that it was impossible. Sushen, in one move, entered the portal and appeared behind the guy, saying he had never stolen anything from this so-called Evolution Federation. He placed his hands on the guy's head and asked who sent him to kill him, but then he said he changed his mind and would end it right away. The guy asked what he was going to do, but Sushen just smiled. As he agonized, his neck disconnected. And wow, it turned into a Mortal Kombat scene. Seeing all that, Bai Kang knew it was impossible for someone to train and become so strong. Sushen was some kind of monster. While the protagonist thought that he needed an assistant to deal with these things because he didn't want too many people to know what his powers were. Meanwhile, in the hotel where it all started, Duanye was saying that Sushen shouldn't abandon her in this place. She woke up saying that apparently she dreamed of him again last night. In the apocalypse, there's nothing to eat, but this girl is growing, and she's just wondering when he'll come back. She remembers that he said he wouldn't accept useless people by his side and got excited, saying she would never be a burden to him. She picked up a Nerf saying she wanted to be his right hand and opened a door where she heard a sound coming from. There was nothing in the room, and she found it strange, when suddenly she felt something and her pupil contracted. A dry demon was right behind her. She leaned back, wondering when that monster appeared. However, she bumped into the table and was blocked. At that moment, she remembered she had the gun and went to grab it, but she hit the chair. The Nerf fell from her hand and rolled across the table. The dry demon came to bite her. She closed her eyes knowing it was over, but strangely, the creature seemed to bite the chair. She moved to the side, wondering what that monster was doing. Realizing it seemed to be smelling her, she guessed it couldn't see. The problem was that she was too close, and if she made a sound, she would be attacked. She tried to grab the Nerf she had dropped on the table. It was her only chance to end it. But she hit her head, and the monster seemed to notice something. It came to bite. She remembered Sushen had warned that he wouldn't keep her around just because she was pretty, and that inside every monster's head was a crystal, and he didn't like useless people. With that, she told herself she wasn't useless and stomped on the monster's eye with her heel. The tip got stuck. She tried to resist so the monster wouldn't come closer. But as soon as her foot came out, the creature grabbed her by the ankle. Doon got angry and stomped on the other eye with the other foot. With that, the monster fell to the ground. She picked up the axe next to her, saying she wasn't useless. She was going to take the crystal from that monster's head and show Su Shen that she was strong. Meanwhile, in the girls' dormitory, Bai Kang and Xiaofeng started evacuating everyone, following Su Shen's tip. And the Golden King Cobra had begun its mutation. Face to face with it, Su Shen was just waiting for the transformation to start. He knew what it needed was water, so he brought a bucket. As soon as he placed it on the ground, the snake started to go for it, and he realized it had intelligence. The moment she made contact with the water, the transformation began. She started to shake and the bucket swelled. Suddenly, it exploded in front of him. The creature had grown huge and was now face to face with him. Su Shen realized she had become much stronger just with that bit of water. It would have been extremely dangerous if he had let the floods come. He drew his blade and warned that if she submitted, he would consider making her a pet. But suddenly, she flew toward the window. Su Shen realized that the creature was more intelligent than he had imagined and jumped outside where the creature seemed to want to escape. Seeing this situation, he knew he had no choice. So he jumped with the sword in hand and tried to stab her head, but the blade broke. Her scales were much more resistant than he thought, and the snake came to bite him. But he calmly jumped towards her, saying that if a blade didn't work, he used his fists. With that, he punched her head into the ground. She took advantage of his distraction to try to wrap her body around him. Immobilized, he said she was quite treacherous and prepared to finish him off, making Su Shen realize that everything so far had been part of her plan. She then came to end him. Elsewhere, a guy from the army tells the captain that she can't forget about Su Shen because she keeps looking in the direction he went. She tells him to shut up. However, he warns that if the guy went alone, he would die. But Bai Kang says it's impossible. She is sure that Su Shen is much stronger than he appears. It's almost as if he were an untamed monster in this apocalypse. A hand comes and stops the snake's strike. Su Shen asks if she really thought she would defeat him with that. He says he knows very well the regenerative capabilities of snakes, but what he's going to do is different. Then he pulls her by the head, throws her aside, and splits her body in two. With that, he finds the crystal he was looking for. From inside it, he extracted the crystal and mentioned he was curious about what ability he would gain. The rising tide started to flood the city. People had nowhere to escape, and only the extremely tall buildings remained above water. However, Su Chen, who had just absorbed the water snake's core, was calmly diving. Scales appeared on his body underwater, and he also felt stronger there. Strangely enough, even without using his mouth or nose to breathe, he wasn't suffocating. It was as if his skin was capturing oxygen, and he realized it was a very useful ability. He knew it wasn't exactly the water manipulation he expected, but it would be highly beneficial. Since the water had come from the hotel area, he couldn't go against it and return there right now. Seeing the ashes on the horizon, he knew the volcanoes had reached their peak eruption. Once the sky cleared, the Earth would enter a glacial period. At this rate, no one would survive without evolved abilities. But he also vividly remembered the numerous factions that emerged when the floods began. The Northern Territory was dominated by the snake he killed, and also by the Corpse Woman. The southern part was dominated by the Cannibal Clan, and the eastern part by the Rat King and his army. The western part had been dominated by Gao Kang and the people of the Green Hotel. In his previous life, he almost died at the hands of each of these groups. But in this life, he had already dealt with Gao Kang and the Snake King. The goal now was to gather more cores to take down the remaining enemies. The problem was that the Devara clan had a very large population, and the Corpse Queen hid so well that it was practically impossible to find her now. He remembered that the rat plague started at the university, so their king must be there. Seeing that he was surrounded by zombies in the water, he realized he had relaxed too much. On top of a nearby antenna, two guys were trying to climb up, wondering how the waves had arrived so quickly. Then the bald guy looked back and warned that someone was swimming toward them. His friend said it was impossible, but then he noticed. Indeed, there was a guy who wasn't drowning or being swept away. However, knowing how unstable that post they were on was, the guys decided that if this guy came closer, they would kick him back into the water. But the bald guy warned to be careful because a lot of things were following him. That's when they saw the legion of zombies following Su Chen. They realized he was coming their way, so they shouted that they were from the Evolution Federation and told him not to approach. Hearing this made our protagonist interested. Immediately, he jumped out of the water toward them and kicked the bald guy, sending him into the water. The poor guy was falling, but his friend managed to grab his arm. He told the fat guy to grab the pillar, but he said he couldn't reach it. His friend assured him not to worry, he wouldn't let him fall. However, this bald guy was the most gentlemanly villain and said it was okay, better to let go or both would die. Meanwhile, Su Chen was up there telling them to spill everything they knew about the Evolution Federation. The guy told him to go to hell and said he'd never talk about it. Seeing the zombies, Su Chen said that if that was the case, they couldn't blame him. Instantly, one of them grabbed the fat guy's foot, pulling him down. Su Chen said he gave them a chance, so it wasn't his fault. However, the friend jumped in, saying he would save him. Down there, the zombies started attacking, and the guy was sure he would die. Then Su Chen passed by and killed the first one. He sent a flurry of cuts through the water, wiping out the zombies. The two wondered if the kid was really human. A while later, up top, they said they owed him and would tell him whatever he wanted to know. They explained that they had been sent there to investigate him, Su Chen. Currently, they were located at the University of Science and Technology and were led by a guy named Liu. Knowing that this university is where the rat business started, Su Chen asks if they're doing any research involving rodents. The guy says unfortunately, no one lets them get close to the labs. Now Su Chen is motivated to go there and resolve this before the rat disaster happens. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Duanye had survived and received the core from one of the zombies. She's always portrayed with great care and attention, but she found it strange that even the upper floors were already flooded. Then something called her attention and a sea creature started wrapping around to kill her. Definitely a cruel and wicked beast. It came toward her, opened a mouth full of teeth, and attacked. She barely managed to grab it, but her hand got entangled. Now she was immobilized and many of these creatures were coming her way. She realized she didn't have time to use the ability she had received. She remembered Su Chen saying that you couldn't know what ability you received just by the creature's appearance. The healthy doctor asked how she would find out if you couldn't tell. Su Chen explained that the only option was to focus on the changes she felt in her body and try to control that power. She smiled, saying she could understand. Looking at the creatures, she seemed to see a small brain in each one. With a red eye, she screamed for them to stop. The monsters seemed scared and moved away from her. She was frustrated because she was all sticky, but she grabbed an axe and said she would now cut them like tofu. She swung the axe at the membrane, tearing everyone apart. While she talked about needing a bath, someone appeared behind her and asked if they could join. She turned angrily, but it was Su Chen in an oxygen suit. She realized it was him and jumped on the boy, celebrating his return. She noticed his oxygen suit and stepped back, apologizing. A while later, they went to take a bath to clean up after a lot of fighting. He asked if she had really received an ability, and she seemed pleased that he mentioned it since she was no longer useless. Our protagonist questioned what the effect was, and she said it was some kind of control over cells and minds. Su Chen immediately wanted to know if it was something possible to use to change the visual of food as an example, and she said she would practice first. He wanted to know what this practice was about, and his mind was taken over, and now he saw her in a combat outfit with extreme protection. He then activated his power to undo her mental control and said he would make her practice that ability a lot. A shot and two creatures died. It was Su Chen telling Duan that she had to control her mind and have a steady aim. He then left, saying he would give her half a day to get used to the ability. He asked if she was from the medical university. She said yes, and he said she would join the next mission. It was time for her to show some usefulness. While sailing through the city on a boat, she asked if it was okay to wear that extreme protection armor. Su Chen said yes, because no one would do anything to her if he was there. She wanted to know why he wanted to go to the science university, and he said he wanted to see a friend, wondering if he had survived. She told him not to worry because good people have good luck. A while later, she notified him they had arrived. The place was barricaded, but she said that was the science university. Su Chen noticed something that a guy appeared on the wall and shot at them. Our guy protected her, and from the top of the wall, someone asked what they were doing there. Su Chen wanted to know where the mutant rat that was supposed to be born in that place was. He said he wanted to join the Evolution Federation and asked them to open the gate. The chubby guy said the rabbit girl could enter, but the guy had to disappear. However, Duan showed a plate of smoked pork and asked to let them in. Immediately, the chubby guy went crazy, saying it was impossible for such a thing to exist in this world. He ordered the men to open the gate now because they hadn't seen meat in a long time. So they entered with the boat. The guys approached the dock demanding the meat immediately. While they argued over who would eat, Duan's eyes were red. The guy thought he was eating roasted pork when it was actually a zombie's arm. They are then led along the way with the guy explaining that everyone helps each other in this base. The first floor is for children, the elderly, and those who are otherwise useless. But they would be going up. Suddenly, a child bumps into someone and falls to the ground. The guy scolds her, asking if she doesn't know how to walk. The child apologizes and Duan picks her up, saying she looks starving. The girl says she hasn't eaten for many days and Duan offers her a piece of bread. Even though she's hungry, the child asks if her bunny sister will go hungry if she takes it. Duan is confused about this bunny sister business and Su Chen says that she won't go hungry. The child tells him to stop lying because everyone is hungry these days. Su Chen gets angry. He can accept doubts about his character, but not his strength. Immediately, he pulls out a feast in front of everyone and tells her to eat. The people are confused and Duan puts the bread in the girl's mouth. But then a group approaches, asking who is cooking there. It's one of the groups that control the place, kicking everyone around and saying that food must be exchanged for contribution points. Seeing the child eating, they say she's breaking the rules. The girl cries to Duan, who tells her not to worry. She looks at Su Chen, who seems to signal her. Something catches the guy's attention. Duan extended her arm and produced a lot of food, saying she prepared it for them. Clearly using her power, she told them not to leave a single piece, Seeing all the meat, the guys dive in, saying it smells amazing. They start eating, saying it's so good it makes them want to cry. One of them turns to Duan and says she is kind and won't be punished, but the guy next to her won't escape. Su-chen asks how they will punish him. The guy then calls out and 2 chain zombies appear. He warns that Su-chen's punishment will be to fight these monsters. Su-chen recognizes these guys as the ones he saved at the post and wonders what's happening. The little girl also seems to recognize them and asks what happened to her brothers. She orders them to release them, asking why they do this to people. While eating the meat, the guys say it's their fault for not completing the mission they were given. That's why they were kept just for some fun. But now that everyone knows each other, things have gotten even more interesting. He warns that if Su-chen loses, they'll throw the child and the 2 guys into the sea to become food. Su-chen starts to notice that the guys don't seem transformed but are under the influence of something. Then the guy orders them to attack. The chains are released and they attack Su-chen, but he just extends his hand and hits the first one's neck. A slap to the other's face and both fall to the ground. The child calls for her brothers, but Duan assures her they are okay and there's no need to worry. The guy eating gets angry, saying it was a waste of 2 medicines. But since Su-chen won, he will give him the chance to hand over all his supplies and he will pretend this never happened. Our guy wants to know what happens if he doesn't hand over anything. The guy angrily asks if he doesn't know the rules there. They have to follow everything Chief Liu says and hand over supplies or they can't stay there. Su-chen realizes these guys create a point system to make people give up everything they have. He says that's fine, but the problem is the rest of his food was devoured by the guys. Then a giant fat man appears in the background, saying if Su-chen wants points, he just has to work for him. The guys recognize him as Captain Go and Duan is scared. Some gag slaves are carrying him on a throne with a girl. He says food is free and accommodation and even a salary are possible working for him. But at that moment, one of the slaves trips and falls to the ground. Go notices this, pulls out his spear and lightly taps the slave's back. This shocks our duo and the guy says as they can see, vacancies are always opening up. He arrived at the perfect time to replace that guy. Besides, if Su-chen hands over the rabbit girl, he'll get noodles until he dies. Warning that it's a huge sacrifice since there is no more production. Not to mention, he's already tired of the woman he has. The guys shout, saying that the offer is very generous and they should accept it now. But then the chief smells food and asks if they were consuming anything. His lackeys are startled. They immediately fall to the ground, apologizing, saying they couldn't resist. They were given free food and didn't know what to do. However, the chief yells, saying the smell of that food is terrible. It seemed like they had eaten a bunch of garbage and orders them to move away. Su-chen immediately notices that the chief wasn't affected by Duan's mental control. While the guys are confused, saying they didn't eat garbage, they start feeling strange and begin to spit blood, complaining about severe stomach pain. They run off, saying they need to use the bathroom. Seeing them flee, Gu wonders how such trash is working for him. On the other hand, Su-chen doesn't know what ability the captain has, but he's not weak, considering he broke Duan's mental illusion over everyone. And the worst part is that killing this guy now will make it harder to find the mutant rats. Gu continues to ask what he thinks of the offer. Su-chen replies that he's not very interested. The guy laughs, saying that's fine, but one day he'll come begging and calls another guy to carry him. With that, Captain Gu leaves. Duan apologizes, saying that unfortunately, her mental power wasn't enough. Su-chen says it's okay. After all, it's strange that the guys didn't die after eating that food. Something's going on in that place. Then a guy comes and warns that he made the guards angry, so he won't be able to get out of there. The guy calls him by name and says it's better to go together. Su-chen asks how he knows his name and why he is helping. The guy points to himself, saying he is Miao Puiyuan. They met the last time he visited his school. In another part, Captain Gu was warning not to let that guy and that woman escape. The guy asks if he's thinking of doing that. The boss licks his lips and says it's obvious. A woman as hot as her is hard to come by in the apocalypse. Hey, actually, in any time, even without an apocalypse, but whatever. The next chapter switches to another building. While someone is receiving an IV, people discuss how the supply of medicine is limited, but for now, it's enough. Duan tells a little girl that for the moment, he's not in serious danger. The little girl thanks the bunny's sister. At this point, Su-chen asks his friend if all the students are living there. He confirms and says that regardless of age, gender, or anything else, they all took refuge in the same place. He explains that someone named Brother Chin Yu is helping everyone, and this place is considered their team's territory. When Su-chen asks what this team's territory business is about, someone appears behind him, saying their team is strong. Even if they clashed with the Ha tribe, they would win. A man then steps forward with a no-smoking badge on his chest and a mask on his face. He asks if Su-chen is interested in joining their team. Suddenly, Miao Puiyuan says to take a closer look at the friend he brought. That's when Taiyan Yu takes off his mask and recognizes Su-chen. He hugs him, saying he can't believe Su-chen is really alive. Su-chen simply replies that it's been a long time since they've seen each other. The friend talks about how they should reunite as brothers and have a drink when something catches his attention nearby. Naturally, he wants to know why Su-chen is hanging out with the university goddess Duanya. She simply says those titles she had are in the past and don't matter anymore. However, the guy keeps yelling, wanting to know why the ice goddess is there and why she's dressed as a bunny. Chen Yu had never seen her in person before, but now he believes the rumors that she's the most beautiful woman. Suddenly, she clings to Su Chen and says she needs to change her clothes to avoid this kind of embarrassment in front of the juniors. The two guys are seething with jealousy, wondering why the goddess is clinging to this bastard. Chen Yu then shows her a path and says she can pick any clothes there to change. Su Chen is impressed that they even have private rooms. Mio Pio Yuan explains it's because of contribution points. At this point, Su Chen asks if the missions there are very dangerous. Chen Yu only replies that there's nothing that isn't dangerous these days. He says Su Chen looks so put together that he probably hasn't faced the real apocalypse yet. It would be better to join their group and let him take care of him. He reassures Su Chen that they could have Duanya just help out with food preparation so she wouldn't be at risk. But there's one thing he needs to be warned about. Su Chen asks when it is, and the guy says it's better for him not to be seen around too much, especially considering the girl is wearing a bunny outfit. He needs to understand that they're in the apocalypse, and it's madness. Su Chen simply replies not to worry because he'll protect her. His friend, however, punches him on the head and says he seriously doubts that. After all, back at the university, he was the one who had to chase off everyone who bothered Su Chen. He explains that the guard in this place isn't such a good person, and all the women he's been interested in so far haven't had a happy ending. Do you remember how we were talking about Duanya? Especially someone as beautiful as her. There's no way they'll let her escape that easily. Man, when she was just getting dressed in her peculiar way. Someone put a knife to her neck and told her not to move. Before Duanya could understand what was happening, a woman appeared beside her. The woman said the boss had sent her to help Duanya settle in. She warned that someone like her couldn't stay in that part of the base. Duanya replied there was plenty of space and she didn't need help from anyone. But the woman placed her hand on Duanya's abdomen and said the boss had called for her personally, so she had to go. Suddenly, Duanya activated her psychic power. The woman froze, confused, and let her go for a second. Duanya looked back, thinking that using mind control to force someone to move was extremely difficult and could only be done briefly. But that was enough for Su Chen to handle the rest. Out of nowhere, the woman cut her own hand to snap herself out of it. Duanya turned back, startled, as the woman lunged and slammed her against the wall. Grabbing her neck, the woman warned her not to try those little tricks again. Suddenly, the door outside started making a lot of noise. People found it strange to hear so much commotion for just a wardrobe change. While the woman covered Duanya's mouth, someone announced they were coming in. The door opened to reveal the king of hands and pockets himself. The Mohawk woman told Su Chen to get lost or he'd be meeting his death. Crazy out of her mind, she rushed towards Su Chen. As she got closer, Tin Yu stepped in front and warned him to be careful. But she suddenly stopped, seeing Su Chen's face up close. It was the same guy from that time at the Science University. The infamous Su Chen who cut down everyone. To her, he was the real demon. Even though she killed countless people in the apocalypse, her instincts warned her that if she moved, she would die. Frozen in place, she desperately thought of a way out. Suddenly, she dove and threw herself at Su Chen's feet. Out of nowhere, she went into seduction mode, calling him master and begging for a suitable punishment. Tin Yu was utterly confused, but Su Chen simply told her to quit the games and reveal who the real boss was in that place. The Mohawk woman asked if she wasn't being sincere enough. She put on an invisibility suit and asked what he thought of that. His friends were alarmed, wondering why she was wearing that skin-color outfit. She kept staring at Su Chen. Then, out of nowhere, a smoke bomb went off in the room. Realizing she couldn't trick him, she tried to flee, but a hand grabbed her by the head. Su Chen lifted her up and said it was ridiculous to think she could escape so easily. She told him to wait and claimed she couldn't be killed. She warned him that the girl he saved and her brothers had all been taken to the arena. But Su Chen said he didn't care and threw her into the sea. It's unclear whether he threw her dead or alive. Chen Yu had no idea what she was talking about. Mio Pio Yuan explained that those were people Su Chen had saved when he arrived at the base. Now they had to figure out how to rescue them so they wouldn't be killed by those rats. Su Chen seemed confused about the rat business. He immediately said he'd handle it, while his friends tried to calm him down. Poor bunny-tailed girl didn't even have time to change clothes. In another part of the base in the middle of an arena, someone announced that the two brothers had failed their mission, and the sentence was death. Captain Gu said that if they entered the arena, he might consider giving them a second chance. The captured brother told Xiao Mei not to believe him, but the little girl, holding a branch, said she wouldn't give up. She asked if he would really release her brother. Gu said yes as long as she managed to survive. As the gate rose, a giant rat appeared behind her. The second she turned around, the creature was already lunging for a bite. I thought Su Chen would save her in time, but she was already bitten by the leptospirosis rat on her arm. In the midst of it all, she remembered her brother showing her some mushrooms he found. They both commented on how dangerous it was since they didn't know if they were poisonous. The bearded man ate one, saying if he didn't die, then it was fine. But suddenly, his spirit left his body, and they realized the mushroom was definitely dangerous. The two decided to leave and earn contribution points to get food for her. They told her to stay safe and not get into trouble because they'd be back soon. But at that moment, the two were about to be executed. They told her not to worry about them. Captain Gu simply told them both to shut up. Their supports broke, and they began their journey to the next life. Xiaomai screamed for them, but the leptospirosis rat was still on her arm. But she grabbed the branch and jabbed it into the rat's eye. As the creature writhed in pain, she fell to the ground and started running, saying she'd save her brothers. She begged them to hold on a little longer, but the monster was already behind her and swiped at her. Captain Gu laughed, saying it was adorable to see a little girl trying to save her older brothers. He sneered that trash like them didn't deserve to live. Pinned to the ground, she cried out for her brothers, not understanding why they were being killed or why all of this was happening. Xiao Mai was on the verge of giving up, pleading for someone to save them. That's when Su Chen delivered a brutal blow to the rat's head, making it vanish into thin air. She was startled, and Chun Yu already sensed that this would stir up a fight. Captain Gu, on the other hand, couldn't fathom how the young man killed the creature so easily. Su Chen simply asked if this was what everyone was so afraid of. One thing he did notice, however, was that this creature, unlike others, didn't have any crystal. Captain Gu then smirked and said it seemed Su Chen was really looking for death. Behind the gate, there were more creatures waiting. Meanwhile, Su Chen's friends had rescued the little girl's brothers. They thanked her, saying it was her attempts that kept them alive long enough to be saved. A bit embarrassed, she replied that it was Brother Su Chen who saved them. At the same time, it seemed like the Mohawk girl Ji was talking to a scientist. She asked if this was the guy who would solve their problems. The scientist confirmed, saying that using that person's genes that could undoubtedly stabilize the apocalypse genes. He explained that the rats they had created used the most advanced technology they had. They were extremely fierce, and if the boy died there, he wouldn't deserve to be their experimental subject. But in just an instant, Su Chen slashed through each of the creatures. The bearded man and the brother couldn't believe how easily he killed them. Captain Gu began to realize the boy was far more complex than he had anticipated. Su Chen, however, remained puzzled about why these creatures didn't have any crystals. Suddenly, a cough came from the loudspeaker. Someone called for the attention of the entire base. It was the scientist who announced that the man in the middle of the arena was the perfect material they needed for their experiments. He ordered Captain Gu and Qian Yu to capture him. The big man smirked and said that now the boss had spoken, the boy's end had come. Finally, the scientist added that it didn't matter whether Su Chen was captured dead or alive. Miao Piao Yuan told Duan Ya that it would be best for them to escape because everyone was about to die. But she replied that she wouldn't leave as long as Su Chen was still there. Captain Gu then mentioned that he was certain Qian Yu was friends with Su Chen, but he reminded Qian Yu that they were only surviving the apocalypse because of the boss, so he advised him to choose the right side. Su Chen looked at Qian Yu and asked what the big guy was talking about. Qian Yu explained that the scientist speaking was Liu Hyun. Since the beginning of the apocalypse, he had created a drug that made people stronger. That's how he managed to take control of the entire university. The problem was that the drug essentially traded health and lifespan for strength. As soon as they stopped taking it, they became weaker than regular people. Su Chen asked his friend if he would come with him if he had a solution, but Qian Yu responded regretfully that at the moment, he had no choice. Captain Gu began laughing, saying he never thought he'd see brothers turn on each other. He declared that time was up since the boss was waiting. He lunged at Su Chen, saying it would all end quickly. That's when someone declared that today would be different. It was Qian Yu who kicked the big guy in the face and said he'd make the wrong choice today. The captain fell, his bald head nearly bursting with rage. He screamed, demanding to know how the bastard dared to betray the boss. Qian Yu replied that he didn't care about that damn boss. Since he was only being controlled because of the drug, he had nothing left to lose, and if he died, he died. Betraying his friend would have been far worse. Su Chen was impressed by the camaraderie. Qian Yu declared he would fight them to the death. He then charged at the captain, who said that if Qian Yu wanted to die so badly, he'd help him out. But Qian Yu retorted that he wasn't enough to make that happen. He unleashed a barrage of punches in true JoJo fashion, but the captain didn't seem too shaken. He revealed that the boss had always suspected Qian Yu would betray them. That's why he was given the level 1 drug. This was something Qian Yu had never heard of. The captain explained that his fat cells were actually the strongest level 2 defense. No one could hurt him. He lunged forward, landing a crushing blow, but Qian Yu managed to block it. Though it was close, the young man narrowly avoided being crushed. As he was pushed toward the ground, the captain laughed maniacally. He pressed something on his weapon's handle, and electricity surged through it. Qian Yu knew he wouldn't be able to withstand it. The pressure made it impossible to escape, until someone kicked the weapon toward the big man. It was Su Chen, who had already stabbed both of the captain's sides. Qian Yu was stunned, and Duan Ya, for some reason, was still impressed despite everything Su Chen had already done. Above, the scientist watched the scene intently. Poor Captain Gu was now a puncture heap on the ground. The scientist found it fascinating, saying he was intrigued by Su Chen. He had spent countless resources and all his power to create the perfect being. His experiments had been advancing steadily, but Su Chen's strength showed that he was far more valuable than all of it. The scientist said he would give the boy a chance to join the experiments and become the first perfect human. From below, Su Chen asked if perfect human meant he turned into a rat. Liu Hian replied that in a way he was correct. The rat genes had been the easiest to comprehend compared to those of humans. The first goal was to create an army of rat men, one that would dominate everyone and bring about a paradise in the apocalypse. Like me, Su Chen thought this was the dumbest idea he'd ever heard. Liu Hyun didn't seem pleased with his reaction. As Ji aimed at him, Liu Hyun said that if Su Chen didn't understand evolution, he would show him the way. She fired her shot. Su Chen dodged, but the bullet struck Captain Gu in the chest. Suddenly, Gu's body began mutating, and everyone watched in horror. Duan wanted to know what kind of experiments these scientists were conducting. As Gu transformed, the scientist explained that the man was a sumo fighter. He had undergone genetic modifications to turn his fat cells into a type of armor. Now that he received the level 3 drug, both his regeneration and strength had increased. Heian explained to Su Chen that he had no chance now and asked if he finally saw the grandeur of evolution. Su Chen, however, raised a single finger and said Heian was merely turning people into monsters, nothing more. Liu Hyun called him ignorant and ordered his men to kill Su Chen and extract his genes. Captain Gu prepared to attack while Su Chen stood there observing. The man transformed into a rolling Sonic-like ball and charged at him. Duan, ever the cautious one, yelled for Su Chen to be careful. But Su Chen didn't even flinch, simply telling Gu to come at him. He caught the beast mid-roll, grabbed onto something, and ripped a piece out of him. It appeared to be a battery inside one of his weapons. Su Chen shoved it into Gu's mouth and told him to taste that. He clamped the man's jaws shut, causing the battery to explode and obliterate his head. Su Chen was looking cool as ever. Shin Yu couldn't believe the monster had been taken down so easily. Liu Hyun hadn't anticipated that the batteries he provided would cause such destruction. Yet seeing the transformation unfold was exactly what he'd expected. Gu's regenerative abilities were so advanced that though deformed, he was still alive. Hyun gloated that against the power of evolution, anything Su Chen did was useless. At that moment, Su Chen decided to get serious and said he was tired of the nonsense. He punched directly into Gu's mouth and all sorts of things started coming out or going in. It was hard to tell. Su Chen thought to himself that he wanted to kill this thing in the easiest way possible, while revealing only a fraction of his power. Nearby, Miao Pu Yuan watched the fight unfold, trying to see the good in it. Duan commented that the storm made it hard to see anything. From above, Hyun had no idea what Su Chen was doing. Su Chen raised a smoke barrier so no one could see him using his powers. He admitted that the scientist's research was impressive, considering the regeneration. But he began pulling out materials, saying it was a shame that this wasn't just a storage area. He pulled out chunks of buildings and beams, saying he was well prepared for this. These were his secret weapons for dealing with regenerators. The onlookers heard the impacts, wondering what all the commotion was about. Heian still had no clue what Su Chen was doing. As the smoke cleared, Su Chen stood there looking cool as ever, posing like he was in a photo shoot. Everyone stared in disbelief. On top of Gu was a pile of cement and iron. Heian cursed Su Chen, yelling that someone needed to get the pile of junk off the captain. He ordered Su Chen's group to look around and realize they were surrounded by creatures. But Su Chen merely replied that it was perfect because he didn't plan on letting anyone leave alive. Duan and the group were terrified, seeing that they were indeed surrounded. Suddenly, many of the people from the lab began transforming into the so-called rat men. Su Chen knew that as long as he didn't deal with the scientist above, it wouldn't end. He told the group that while he chased after Hyun, they would have to handle the situation. Duan remembered his warning that if she wasn't useful, he'd abandon her. Afraid of being left behind, she assured him she'd take care of it. Su Chen walked off, saying to call him if things got too difficult. Duan stepped forward, commanding everyone's attention. Using her magical talents, she declared she would try to control the creatures. She knew she couldn't control them all at once, but her focus was to make it easier for everyone else to kill them. She ordered the group to attack. From inside the base, the doctor sneered that this band of traitors would become rat food. Another man informed the scientist that Su Chen had begun advancing. The security forces were already being killed. Liu Hyun couldn't believe Su Chen was actually trying to invade his lab. He ordered them to immediately inject the apocalypse gene into himself. Now that's a guy who trusts his research. At least I respect that. The staff warned him that the apocalypse gene was still highly unstable and risky, but Hyun demanded they obey. He wanted to personally end Su Chen. Meanwhile, Su Chen moved through the corridors. Surrounded by human-monster hybrids, he noticed something to the side. It was a girl wrapped in extremely thick bandages. The girl wrapped in thick bandages covering most of her body was called Yun. This was the same girl Su Chen had met at the bar at the start of everything. He prepared a punch and broke her out of the cylinder. And here comes another very healthy girl. Barely awake, Yun immediately clung to Su Chen, calling him her legendary savior. He confirmed he was indeed Su Chen and assured her not to worry, he'd get her out of there. But she clutched her stomach and said she was starving. Confused, Su Chen was about to respond when someone shouted from behind the door, telling him to let her go. A few arrows flew toward him, but he caught one midair. It was Liu Hyun, ordering him to release the woman he had chosen. Su Chen immediately recognized that Hyun had ice-based abilities. He questioned the scientist, asking if he thought humans were merchandise, casually saying he chose her. The scientist scoffed, claiming that in the apocalypse, ordinary humans were like ants. As someone wielding the power of evolution, he was destined to rule the world. Having Yun belong to him was, in fact, an honor. Su Chen simply replied that the man was as much of a lunatic as the rumors suggested. Suddenly, Yun grabbed Su Chen, begging him not to leave her behind. She said she was scared, and he reassured her he wasn't going anywhere. The poor scientist was about to need therapy for cuckoldry. He charged at Su Chen, demanding he let go of his woman. But Su Chen casually kicked the cylinder, which Hyun managed to deflect to the side. When he turned back, he was greeted with an unexpected sight. A kiss. Right there, Su Chen and Yun were locking lips. Hyun lost his mind, fuming with rage. Yun clung to Su Chen, telling him not to leave like last time, while Hyun screamed, demanding to know why she betrayed him. Frustrated, Hyun declared that if she was going to treat him like this, they could all go to hell together. His clothing exploded, revealing his transformation. A claw emerged in place of his hand as he turned into a jackal-like beast. He declared that Su Chen was about to witness the power of a true god. But Su Chen, still holding Yun, told him to go ahead. He placed Yun on the ground and handed her a chocolate bar. Before Su Chen could say another word, Hyun attacked, thinking he caught him distracted. But Su Chen merely slapped him and Hyun disintegrated into nothingness. Even Su Chen was surprised at how easy that was. Yun then asked if the people below were Su Chen's allies. He confirmed they were. She stood up, vowing to help him since he had saved her. Breaking the window, she announced she'd assist his group but warned him that Hyun wasn't as easy to kill as he seemed. She leaped out of the building, her bandages fluttering dramatically. As she fell, her body began to grow until she landed on the ground as a giant. Doon-ya and the others wondered if they were seeing things. But there she was, a woman the size of a building, right in front of them. She started stomping around, crushing the first rat underfoot. Lifting her foot, she asked if these were the results of Hyun's experiments. More rats swarmed out of the base, biting the group. It became clear that Yun had a deep fear of rats. Tears streaming, she tried to stomp them all. From above, Su Chen observed the chaos. As he suspected, Yun's powers were formidable. But the blood on the ground began to transform into new rats. They scurried towards Su Chen, climbing all over him. It was clear that Hyun wasn't as easy to kill as it had seemed. The rats completely enveloped him, and then suddenly, a hand emerged from Su Chen's head. It seemed Hyun had taken control of his body. Looking at his own hand, Hyun marveled that he had found an immortal body. Below, the rats all stopped moving at once. They turned to face the building where Hyun now resided. Chen-Yu wondered aloud if this was the infamous rat king he heard about. The entire army turned and knelt before him. Meanwhile, Yun picked up a chair and started smashing everything in sight. She demanded to know where Su Chen was. Hyun coldly replied that Su Chen was already dead. He added that Yun's betrayal meant she would die too. The rats swarmed Yun, biting her arms. Doon-ya and the others tried to fight back, but the army was too vast. Yun collapsed, being overwhelmed and devoured. Hyun celebrated, claiming his army was perfect. But then Su Chen's hand burst through Hyun's chest. He commented that it had taken some time to find the crystal. Hyun, bewildered, asked how Su Chen was still alive after being completely devoured. Su Chen simply tore him in half and stepped out from his remains. As Hyun gasped, saying it was impossible, Su Chen held the crystal in his hand, declaring that the core now belonged to him. But more and more rats emerged from the sewers, swarming and attacking everyone. Chen-Yu warned that at this rate, none of them would make it out alive. The bearded man tried to block an entrance, but a rat grabbed his leg. Before he could react, he was slammed to the ground and dragged into the sewer. Chen-Yu shouted for his brother, but the man told them to forget about him and focus on surviving. He was dragged into the darkness, the rats sealing the entrance behind him. The former ally of Captain Gu realized it was impossible to save him. Chen-Yu noted that there were far too many creatures for them to handle. Mio Pyu-Yuan's body was also reaching its limit. The effects of the drug he'd taken were wearing off, leaving him too weak to attack. Meanwhile, Yun's stomach was growling. She needed food to maintain her giant form. While Doon-ya was already exhausted from using her powers repeatedly, seeing the creature above, Chen-Yu realized there was no way they could survive. Then he heard something approaching. It was the figure at the top descending and transforming before them. It was the Rat King fully evolved. Likely it was Su Chen himself. But the group had no idea and was terrified. Slowly, the transformed figure approached them. Even the remaining rats cowered in fear, trembling before him. Doon-ya, still disoriented, wondered if Su Chen had truly failed. The figure approached her and reassured her not to worry. It was him. She recognized his voice as he glanced at his own hand. The consciousness of the Rat King's crystal was trying to consume his own. But if there was one thing Su Chen trusted, it was his mental strength. He wasn't going to lose to this. As he began reverting to his original form, Chen-Yu called out to him. Su Chen stepped aside, thanking them all for their hard work. The moment the rats realized he was back to himself, it lunged toward him. Chen-Yu yelled for him to be careful. But Su Chen simply turned and commanded them to leave. Using the power of the Rat King, all the creatures obeyed. They scattered, retreating back into the sewers. Mio Pyu-Yuan, stunned, asked what had just happened. The group realized that all Su Chen had done was tell them to leave. Finally, the remaining energy from the Rat King's crystal was enough to control them. But then Chen-Yu began growing in pain. Su Chen rushed to him, asking if he was all right. Yun explained what was happening. The drug the scientists had been giving them was actually a poison. The more power they used, the more it consumed their bodies. Su Chen asked how they could save him. Yun explained that inside the lab, there was a body whose blood acted as an antidote. Without hesitation, Su Chen headed to the lab. Standing before the door, he felt an intense pressure. As he opened it, it felt as though he were stepping into a black hole. Something strange brushed against his foot, and he questioned the sensation. It felt as though he had passed through a portal made of mental energy. He stopped abruptly, knowing there should have been a corpse there. But instead, something else was waiting. A planetary scientist greeted him, saying he had finally arrived. She turned and called for her classmate Liu. Confused, Su Chen looked to the side and saw his reflection displaying a different image. It was as if he were trapped inside an illusion. He had no idea why this was happening. Whatever it was, he needed to wake up quickly. The girl turned back to him, inviting him to sit. Su Chen began wondering if he was inside Liu Hyun's memories. Suddenly, she opened her coat, and he asked what she was doing. She explained that the lab was very stuffy, and she needed some air. He asked how the progress was going. She responded by asking if he knew anything about Saculina, a parasitic organism typically found in crabs. She explained that it was one of the most fascinating parasites because rather than killing its host, it lived symbiotically with it and even protected it. She massaged his shoulders, marveling at the concept. Placing a hand on his abdomen, she remarked that she never imagined her classmate Liu was so smart and had such a good physique. He smirked, asking if she really thought so. But as the scene shifted, it became clear she wasn't in the lab for experiments. She admitted she was more interested in theoretical lessons. The anatomical research began, but she suddenly commented on the strange state of the moon. The sun had become unexpectedly hot. They closed the curtains, and some time later, they were on the floor, wondering when it would all end. Supplies were running low, and she lamented that at this rate, they wouldn't last long. Time passed, and Liu Hyun had transformed, furious with her for stealing his supplies. She apologized, saying she had been so hungry she couldn't resist. But he picked up a knife, claiming that the nutrients probably hadn't been digested yet. What followed was chaos in the lab. After extracting what little food remained, he fed her to the rats. As he continued experimenting, he noticed they were becoming more aggressive. Interestingly, a substance derived from her blood neutralized the rats' rage. But the most shocking part was that she was still alive, continuously mutating. She was the perfect subject for his research. After some time, he believed he had found what he named the apocalypse gene. The girl, now reduced to little more than hair and a spine, was still alive. He smiled, claiming they were only getting started. Since she wouldn't die no matter what, she smirked back, asking if he had found the core he had been searching for. With the core in hand, she urged him to consume it without hesitation. But he destroyed it, declaring it to be nothing more than rotten flesh. The scientist questioned how he realized it wasn't the real core. Su Chen responded that if it had been the true core, she would already be dead. Back in the present, she remarked how impressive it was that he had broken through her illusion. Calm anger, she exclaimed that she had finally gotten so close. Su Chen placed his hand on her head, saying he was going to find the core in her brain. She screamed, begging him to stop, saying she was just a poor woman hurt by others. She offered to give him her power if that's what he wanted. But Su Chen replied that he knew consuming her flesh would cause his consciousness to be stolen. He pressed his hand down despite her pleas, and an explosion occurred. Her body began to disintegrate, leaving behind a crystal that Su Chen was sure was the real core this time. However, he wondered how he would obtain her blood now that she had dissolved. Given the amount of research they had conducted, he was certain there had to be some stored elsewhere in the lab. As she faded away, she still smiled. The virus had created connections within its host, taking control of the body and all behavior. In the end, it turned the person into a complete slave. The scene shifted back to the city. The floodwaters were finally receding. People were urged to keep moving and not stop. Duanya had changed her clothes, though danger was still ever present. Yun, still wrapped in her bandages, asked Duanya what Su Chen planned to do with all the scientists. Duanya explained that the base was overrun with rat men and no longer livable. Since medical students were crucial in the apocalypse, Su Chen planned to move them to a safe zone. When Yun said she wanted to meet Su Chen, Duanya grabbed her arm, refusing to allow it, warning that as long as she was with them, she better obey. A flashback revealed a brief memory of Duanya with Su Chen. There wasn't much need for explanation, just him pinching her cheek and giving her a kiss. Duanya described it as a stormy night, a euphemism, no doubt. Angrily, she wondered if all this aggression came from the excessive crystals Su Chen had consumed. Su Chen understood that bacteria, plants, and other life forms had undergone mutations due to the flood. This was why medical professionals were among the most valuable resources at the moment. It was time for him to establish a safe zone to secure future strength. Additionally, they could begin producing a recovery serum thanks to Yun's research. He had, of course, stored all the lab materials in his subspace. The Rat King's crystal not only boosted his berserker strength, but also his physical power. It had even granted him ice abilities. Though he could only produce small crystals for now, he was confident this would evolve over time. Chen Yu suddenly asked about a strange noise nearby. One of Su Chen's new abilities, mental perception, allowed him to detect heat signatures within 30 meters, just as monsters located humans. Miao Piu Yuan pointed upward, telling everyone to look. A woman was suspended by her arms in the middle of the street. Everyone wondered who could have done such a thing. One of the girls recognized her as Hu, a former roommate. She begged for someone to save her. A man stepped forward, saying he'd get her down. But Su Chen warned him not to meddle in others' affairs. The girl protested, asking why he was so cold as to let her die. She questioned whether he was even human. She declared that none of them were real men, and she would stay and save Hai Hai herself. The two moved closer, ordering the ropes to be cut. Another man approached to untie the ropes, reassuring her they'd get her down. But suddenly, a spear struck one man through the chest and another through the back. They were shocked as figures leaped from nearby buildings. It became clear they had walked into a trap. Transformed men surrounded them. One of the men licking the girl's face remarked that such a beautiful face would help lure more people. He grabbed her thigh, saying he'd have some fun before stringing her up. His friend protested, but a blade had already struck him. The monster said that prey must accept their fate of being consumed. As the girl screamed, the man declared the hunt a success. From a distance, Su Chen's group heard her cries. They asked if it was the girl they'd seen earlier. Su Chen confirmed it, warning that no one was safe here. At that moment, they were surrounded by devourers. The group looked around, trying to locate them. But Su Chen said it was the perfect opportunity to test his latest ability. With his corpse control ability, he summoned the bodies of the unconscious dead. Zombies began to rise behind the transformed men. But for those who still retained their minds, it was easy to tear the zombies apart and hurl them away. Su Chen noticed the group trying to escape. The attackers leaped from the building, saying they wouldn't let them get away. But Su Chen stayed behind, declaring that the ones who would escape were his group. One of the attackers, confused, commented that it seemed someone was eager to die. Su Chen simply replied that it was a shame devourers didn't have crystal cores. At that moment, the zombies surrounding the attackers closed in on them again. A short time later, at the Reshing safe zone, Su Chen's group arrived and someone shouted, questioning who dared to invade Reshing. It was Du Wanyat and Yan Yan, nearly exploding with frustration, declaring they had come from the University of Science and Technology. Suddenly, a man wielding an axe leaped down in front of them. He glared at the women, warning that no trash was allowed in this place and they should leave. Du Wanyat activated her power, demanding to know who gave him the authority to deny her entry. The man seemed affected but struck his own head, smirking that she had a few tricks. He lunged at her, calling her useless garbage. Xiaofeng intervened, raising his hand to stop him. He addressed Captain Su, saying these people were only seeking refuge and there was no need to attack them. The man argued that ordinary people couldn't survive the devourer-infested areas, so they must be infiltrators. At that moment, Su Chen stepped forward, stating that if that was their attitude, he would have to take these numerous doctors to another safe zone. Hearing about a group of doctors, the axe-wielding man's demeanor shifted to excitement, as doctors were a rare and critical resource for survival. Xiaofeng recognized Su Chen and turned to the captain, assuring him that he knew these people and they were not allied with the devourers. In the background, others urged the captain to accept the group since they had so many doctors. Reluctantly, the captain agreed, but he warned Xiaofeng that if these doctors failed to help anyone, Xiaofeng would bear the consequences. Inside the base, as they walked through the base, Xiaofeng apologized to Su Chen, explaining that the captain had been irritable lately. He added that the doctors had arrived just in time as they had some strange patients urgently needing treatment. They removed a cloth covering a girl's body, revealing her covered in strange mushrooms. Yan Yan, confused, asked what was happening. Xiaofeng explained that no matter how many times they cut the mushrooms, they grew back, leaving the girl weaker and weaker. Su Chen explained that after the floods, plants had also begun mutating. This was likely a fungal mutation that had adapted to humans. Duanyi remarked that the girl was being used as a nutrient source. Yan Yan volunteered to inform the others so they could start developing a treatment. Su Chen realized this was only the beginning of plant evolution. Soon, plants would reach the point of actively attacking humans. At that moment, devourer tribes would seize the opportunity to use people as a form of livestock. This was why Su Chen needed to establish a secure zone and prepare before it was too late. Chaos in the base. In the middle of the base, a man driving a car recklessly mowed people down. Bystanders warned others to stay out of the young lord's way. He fired his gun wildly, shouting for the peasants to move aside. Su Chen, witnessing the scene, questioned why no one was stopping him. Xiaofeng explained that the base's main teams had disbanded. Su Chen asked if it was due to the influx of chaotic refugees. Xiaofeng confirmed, adding that the young lord was the son of a city leader and had been doing as he pleased since the beginning. No one could expel him, which was why the base struggled to function. The young lord spotted the newcomers and, delighted, maneuvered his car toward them. He stopped in front of Yan Yan, inviting her to join him for food and fun. Yan Yan stood up, claiming she was starving and needed him to carry her. The young lord grinned, thrilled to oblige. Xiaofeng warned Zhang he not to touch her, but the young lord spread his arms, saying he was ready for her. Yan Yan smiled mischievously, telling him to prepare himself. She jumped, stepped on the car's wheel, and launched herself into the air. The young lord, hearts practically popping out of his eyes, eagerly anticipated his fun. But then Yan Yan activated her ability, growing massive in size. He barely managed to dive aside as her enormous form crashed down, completely crushing the car. Yan Yan landed awkwardly, sprawled on the ground, but the car was utterly destroyed. Captain Su looked on, bewildered, as Bai Kang arrived, demanding to know what all the commotion was about. The young lord, though he escaped, had his legs completely crushed. Yun Yun stepped on the remnants of his legs, mockingly saying he had his chance to enjoy himself but couldn't handle her. His friends approached, ordering her to be dealt with for injuring him. Duanya stepped in, asserting they wouldn't succeed. She activated her mental control, and the men muttered that the young lord was delusional. They claimed he had fallen from the car and broken his legs on his own. Zhang He, furious, accused everyone of conspiring against him and called out for his father to handle the situation. Captain Su, amused, remarked that it would be interesting to see how this unfolded. Suddenly, a convoy arrived, surrounding a vehicle. Xiaofeng seemed nervous, realizing Zhang He had actually summoned the city's lord. A portly man with a mustache stepped out, demanding to know what had happened to his son. Xiaofeng tried to defend the group, explaining that they had brought a team full of doctors, but the young master was just causing trouble. However, the boy on the ground accused them of breaking his leg. To everyone's surprise, his father slapped him across the face. The lord scolded his son, reminding him that he had ordered everyone entering the base to be treated with respect. He declared that his plan during the apocalypse was to turn this place into a symbol of hope. The crowd seemed moved, realizing the lord didn't appear to be as bad as they had thought. He continued his speech, inviting everyone to help build this dream alongside him. They would provide the best food and the most generous conditions possible. Xiaofeng called for Su Chen and told the group they were welcome to stay. But when they turned to look for Su Chen, he had already disappeared. Around a campfire in the forest, someone asked why they weren't staying in the city. Du and Ya, skeptical, wondered if the lord wouldn't seek revenge for his son's broken leg. Yun Yun chimed in, suggesting they all sleep together in the forest that night. She teasingly told Duanya it was her first time and she'd need help falling asleep. Duanya simply replied that she might not even be able to sleep tonight. Confused, Yun Yun asked where all this energy was coming from. Su Chen interrupted, telling them to stop imagining things as someone was approaching. A group hidden behind the trees emerged, armed, asking if they really thought they'd get away with breaking the young master's leg. Su Chen explained that he had handled it that way because he didn't want to destroy the entire city. Two men stepped forward, laughing at the absurdity of his claim. One of them stopped laughing when he was instantly vaporized by a single punch. The bald man panicked and ordered his group to open fire. But in the blink of an eye, Su Chen darted through them, leaving cuts across their chests. Pointing his sword at the bald man, Su Chen warned him to speak quickly if he wanted to live. The man revealed a secret. The city lord had a deal with the nearby devourers. He handed over refugees from the base in exchange for food. Yun Yun, enraged, struck the bald man on the head, demanding how he could be complicit in such a thing. He explained it was all part of the lord's plan. At that moment, a devourer appeared, grabbing one of the men by the neck. It declared the next food delivery would be at the gates before dawn. As for now, the man was today's meal. With a horrifying bite, the devourer tore into the man's neck and spine. The bald man added that the city lord assigned people to guard the gates, but only to ensure they were the next to be eaten by the devourers. The guards were merely a facade. Begging for his life, the bald man pleaded with Su Chen to let him go. Su Chen, however, remarked there was still something he needed help with. Bait for the devourers. The scene shifted to the bald man tied to a rope among the devourers, screaming for help. Devourers approached, questioning who had tied him there. One of them dismissed the question and suggested they simply eat him. When the bald man tried to reveal who had set him up, a devourer punched him in the stomach, declaring him the next meal. Suddenly, a giant figure loomed over them, chastising the devourer for breaking her new toy. It was Yun Yun who grabbed one of the devourers, announcing that he would be next. From the top of a nearby building, someone took aim at the devourers. Su Chen warned the group that these creatures had heads so tough even bullets wouldn't penetrate. Someone fired a sniper shot to test this claim. 3 bullets hit a devourer's head in rapid succession, causing it to explode. Another devourer struggled to break free from Yun Yun's grip, but Su Chen dispatched another from behind. As Su Chen turned, he punched yet another devourer, causing it to explode. In an abandoned mansion, after the night's hunt, the group settled in an old mansion. Su Chen prepared a bed, and Duanya questioned why he was so intent on securing that specific base. She suggested they could establish a safe zone elsewhere instead of getting involved in so many conflicts. Su Chen explained he couldn't afford to waste time. He needed someone like He Sheng to manage the base for him. Yun Yun appeared, asking why they had started without her. She had changed clothes, though ironically, her new outfit seemed even skimpier than her usual one. It was easy to imagine what would happen next. Meanwhile, back in the city lord Zhang learned that the bald man had been killed, assuming it was the devourer's doing. Meeting with the devourer leader, Zhang was informed that while one of their men had been injured, the devourers had lost 3 warriors. As compensation, the city would need to send twice as many people. If they didn't, the deal would be terminated. The portly lord initially wanted to refuse, but Zhang immediately agreed. At that moment, Su Chen appeared, mocking the lord for selling people's lives without even negotiating. Shocked, the group asked how Su Chen had gotten there. He replied he had simply followed the trail of the devourers. The devourers immediately suspected Su Chen of killing their men. Their leader expressed disbelief that he could have taken down 3 of them. Su Chen had made the mistake of entering the base, giving the city lord Zhang the opportunity to flee, thinking Su Chen would die there anyway. The scene then shifts back to Yi Sheng's base. The leader shouted to everyone that they had a traitor among them. The people asked who it was. He pointed at Su Chen's group, accusing them of being frauds. He claimed there were no real doctors among them and that they were just trying to steal resources from the refugees. But just as the crowd began shouting for the group to be killed, a blond man appeared. He said he knew Su Chen very well and was certain the people he brought were not a problem. Lord Zhang questioned Gao Yue, asking how he could be so sure that they weren't traitors. At that moment, someone appeared atop a building, saying they could prove it. The Lord looked up, shocked to see who it was, asking how he was still alive. Su Chen stood there, holding the body of one of the devourers. He demanded the Lord explain himself. The people were terrified, realizing that if the leader was there, it meant the entire Devourer clan had been killed. Su Chen then told the leader that if he didn't reveal the truth to everyone, he would die. The man started shouting to everyone, confessing that Lord Zhang had been making deals with the Devourers. He admitted that people from the city were sold in exchange for the supplies others consumed there. Zhang tried to defend himself, claiming it was all a lie and that Su Chen was the one working with the Devourers. But Gao Yue approached Zhang, punched him in the face, and called him a monster. Suddenly, Zhang's expression changed and he confessed it was true. He explained that in the apocalypse, supplies were already in the Devourers' hands. The remaining humans were merely waiting to fall into their traps. He justified his actions, saying that as long as a few worthless lives were sacrificed, good people could continue surviving. Out of nowhere, Su Chen punched Zhang in the face, calling him a coward for thinking that way. He then called out to General Gao, extending his hand, saying that together they could build a base that truly belonged to humanity. In his past life, after traveling to many places, Su Chen had finally found a base like that. It was like a paradise where there were no class divisions and no one went hungry. It was all thanks to its creator, Gao Yue. However, at this moment, Gao had yet to take control of the place or decide to build his own base. That was why things were still in such a state. All Su Chen had done was speed up the process. Bai Kang commented that building a base was an extremely difficult task. Someone nearby added that if they truly wanted to do things their own way, they couldn't live under someone else's roof. Zhang stood up and asked if they really thought they were a band of heroes, saviors with lofty dreams. He warned that outside the city, beasts dominated everything. This city was the only place that guaranteed basic food and at least a minimum level of safety. His son suggested letting them leave, confident they'd come crawling back after suffering enough. Some members of the group hesitated, saying they didn't want to leave because it was too dangerous outside. Zhang turned to those people, saying that anyone who wanted to follow Su Chen's group could leave as he was feeling generous. Sitting atop the Devourer leader's body, Su Chen remarked that food was never the issue. Watching the scene unfold, the others realized that if Su Chen could defeat a Devourer so easily, he was no ordinary man. One of them pointed at Su Chen, accusing him of lying and claiming he had no idea how much food it took to sustain an entire base. Su Chen calmly responded that he had enough supplies to feed 2,000 people for over a month. The leader of the base immediately recognized that this was the exact amount they currently had stored in their warehouse. So where would this boy get all that? In another part of the city, Yun Yun knelt at Su Chen's feet, mockingly asking since when Su Chen had become so generous. The poor guy had been crushed in such a cruel way. Duanyi remarked that Su Chen had actually stolen all the resources. She was aiming a sniper rifle at the people below, while Yun Yun complained that she was starving again. They both informed Su Chen that they were ready. The protagonist turned to General Gao and told him to make his decision. The general declared that this base had neither food nor security, and on top of that, they were being sold to the Devourers. In the end, the humans there were nothing more than livestock. He proclaimed he wouldn't stay there another day and would accept Su Chen's offer. Raising his arms, Gao Yue called on everyone who trusted him to step forward. The soldiers, loyal to General Gao, were the first to move, and soon a large portion of the group followed him. Lord Zhang watched in disbelief, wondering why he was being abandoned. He shouted that he was the lord of the city and everyone should remain loyal to him until the end. But the army was already standing behind Gao, ready to leave. Zhang lost his composure, screaming that no one was leaving without his permission. The soldiers all raised their weapons at him. Then Zhang's son, still seated in his chair, began firing, blaming Su Chen for his condition. Su Chen dodged a bullet that grazed his cheek and commented that the boy clearly wanted to die. He charged at Zhang's son, grabbing him by the neck. He turned to Lord Zhang and demanded he order everyone to lower their weapons, or his son would die right there. After a moment of hesitation, Zhang told everyone to stop aiming at Su Chen. Su Chen turned to Gao, instructing him to lead the people away, saying he would handle the rest. Hearing this, Zhang turned to Su Chen and said that once the refugees were gone, he should release his son and everyone would leave alive. However, on a rooftop, a sniper had taken aim. Su Chen relayed the sniper's location to Duanyi. Her sharp aim took care of him in one shot. As soon as Zhang heard the gunshot, he realized his plan had failed. Su Chen grabbed Zhang's son and tossed him back, stating he would fulfill his part of the deal. But Su Chen asked one final question. What does human flesh taste like? Zhang, confused, pulled his son closer to check what had happened. That's when he realized Su Chen had placed a grenade in his son's mouth. With an explosion, both were blown apart, leaving only Zhang holding a severed arm. In the end, Zhang was also revealed to be a devourer. He vowed to kill Su Chen. The two women approached Su Chen, telling him they could leave now. Su Chen knew Zhang was a devourer from his previous life, but for now, to avoid harming the other survivors, he warned Zhang that next time he wouldn't be so lucky. In another part of the city, while observing a building, someone mentioned that this was the place Su Chen had said held supplies. It was Sun and his army, whose mission was to eliminate the devourers and bring back the resources to their base. But as soon as Sun's troops entered, they were shocked. The devourers in that place were already dead. Shortly after, they had loaded their trucks with the supplies the devourers had been hoarding. Sun celebrated the success, but was also confused, wondering why the trip had been such a waste of the entire army's time. Someone mentioned hearing that Su Chen had received an important mission. Sun began to wonder about that handsome boy and what he was really up to. Why is he trying to compete with him? At an antenna in another part of the city, Yun Yun asked Duan why that idiot captain hadn't returned yet. Duan told her not to worry, saying that Su Chen had already killed the devourers in that area, so the others would survive. Yun Yun replied that they would still need to stay for the soldiers to deliver supplies to the survivors. At that moment, Duan noticed the truck arriving, but she commented that it would be difficult to use mental powers to hide Yun Yun entirely. Sun introduced himself to Gao Yui and informed him that the resources had been collected. The captain asked if it was true about the supplies. Sun confirmed, saying Su Chen hadn't deceived them and had gathered enough to save everyone. Go Yui praised Su Chen as a savior, but Sun dismissed him, saying he was just a pretty boy tricking people. Suddenly, another man in a gray shirt appeared. Sun informed the general that they had detected another devourer tribe near the southern hospital. Captain Sun saw this as the perfect opportunity to show everyone who the real savior was. In another part of the city, someone asked if they were really going to attack the military base. Bai Kang said the base surely had important resources, but so many people had died there, it was likely a trap filled with mutants. Su Chen told them not to worry and to just take him there. He'd handle the rest. Bai Kang replied that they'd need a car, and that the place might still be submerged. Su Chen said getting a vehicle was easy, and one appeared right in front of them. Before they could process what happened, he got in and told them to move quickly. The car sped through the city. Elsewhere, a group of men was trying to drain water from a location, but no matter how much they pumped, the place wouldn't empty. A transformed man with a bandana ordered them to bring some useless items he used as bait for the creatures. The items turned out to be humans, who were thrown into the river. The man with the bandana said the aquatic ghouls would now be busy, making it the perfect chance for them to be rewarded with one of the Lord's women. One of the men stepped forward, saying he wanted food along with a woman. Priorities right, survival first. This submerged base was where Su Chen and his group were heading. Xiao Feng mentioned that the army likely already knew about the ammunition and weaponry stored there. Bai Kang told Su Chen to follow her, as she knew an easier underwater path to the base. They began swimming toward the depths of the base, but something caught Bai Kang's attention. Looking to the side, she saw a multitude of eyes watching her. Startled, she tried to cover her mouth but ran out of air. Su Chen grabbed her arm and told her not to be afraid. He pulled her close and shared some oxygen with her. But when he looked around, the ghouls were already approaching. Su Chen pulled her closer, and she instinctively clung to him. However, when she glanced behind him, she was confused about what was happening. Seeing Su Chen's eyes, she wondered if it was some kind of power he had. Holding her by the waist, he told the creatures to prepare for the hunt. Strangely, some of the creatures started breaking free from the illusion and attacked him. He easily blocked the attacks and told the others to head straight into the base. Taking the opportunity, they swam forward and managed to emerge from the water. Both were shaken, wondering how a human could control the ghouls. Su Chen emerged from the water holding a white core in his hand. He commented that the chances of finding anything worthwhile there were very low. Bai Kang, however, seemed impressed, saying something like that was extremely rare. Xiao Feng knew that the white core didn't grant abilities but could significantly strengthen a person. Nearby, what looked like a golden tabby cat suddenly jumped, snatched the core from Su Chen's hand, and darted off through the group. Bai Kang remarked that the base used to employ cats to control rats, and it seemed this one had survived but ended up trapped here. Still, it was remarkable that the cat had actually stolen something from Su Chen's hand. With a sinister look on his face, Su Chen offered the cat a fish snack, asking if they could trade. But the quick little feline snatched the food and bolted to the end of the tunnel. Now visibly annoyed at being robbed by a cat twice, Su Chen muttered that nothing surviving the apocalypse could be normal. A little later, they found the generator and managed to turn on some of the lights. Su Chen explained that before the floods, some survivors had managed to flee the base, but he was certain they hadn't had time to remove all the resources. When they reached the warehouse, they found an arsenal sufficient to arm about 500 people. Xiao Feng noted that if they found a tank, they could equip up to 1,000. The little cat was lounging nearby while the group discussed the biggest problem, how to transport everything. Bai Kang pointed out that the people on the other side of the river would arrive soon, so they wouldn't have time to take it all. Su Chen scanned the entire area but seemed tense. Just then, Xiao Feng announced that he had found a tank, but he was being followed by a deformed monster. The group froze as the creature, with what looked like a bazooka mounted on its head, fired a shot that narrowly missed the tank. Xiao Feng warned that if an explosion happened in a warehouse like this, everything would be lost. Realizing there was no time to explain, Su Chen activated his subspace ability. The entire warehouse began disappearing. Bai Kang immediately recognized this as Su Chen's ability. The little cat perched nearby might have been sucked in as well. It was hard to tell. Within seconds, the warehouse was completely empty. Xiao Feng jokingly asked if Su Chen could store the monster too. Su Chen explained that living things couldn't be stored in subspace. Bai Kang suggested distracting the monster so Su Chen and Xiao Feng could escape. But Su Chen pulled her back despite her insistence. She argued that since he had the warehouse ability, it was more important for him to survive. The creature prepared another shot as Su Chen leaped and dodged. Still confident, Bai Kang continued to insist, but Su Chen told her to stop interfering and joined Xiao Feng, assuring her he would kill the beast. Reluctantly, she ran off, warning him not to die. The monster and Su Chen were now face to face. Even in his past life, Su Chen couldn't recall seeing anything like it. But to him, it was irrelevant. He was only here for the core. Outside the base, the rest of the group was looking back, hearing strange noises. One of the men told the leader that something was clearly happening inside. The water level was rapidly dropping, likely because the explosion had created a breach. The leader realized someone had entered the base before them. As he began giving orders, the group became distracted, mentioning their craving for rabbit meat. A peculiar little creature, not the least bit friendly, was lurking behind the bushes, and they were eager to catch it. But it would have been wiser to run. The leader remarked that the rabbit seemed to be smiling strangely. Suddenly, the creature began cackling. The group froze in shock as a shadow fell over them. The leader was startled, and the next scene showed him grinning just like the rabbit. Meanwhile, at the lower part of the base, Su Chen landed a punch on the monster's arm. The creature aimed to fire again, but Su Chen dodged. He began to realize that, as expected, a boss of this level had skin as tough as steel. Even Su Chen's hand turned red from the impact of his punch. The beast was incredibly resilient. The creature attempted to crush him with its palm, but Su Chen narrowly escaped. He noticed that the vines attacking him were brain parasites. The problem arose when, during the next attack, the creature caught him. The vines dragged him in front of the cannon, which prepared to fire. With no choice, Su Chen dove into his subspace, realizing this fight would be far more difficult than he had anticipated. Once inside, he was greeted by the little cat. Noticing the creature's golden aura, Su Chen warned it to stay back or it might be killed. The cat appeared to try communicating something. Su Chen began to suspect it was a mutant beast much smarter than he had initially thought. Meanwhile, amidst the rubble of the base, Bai Kang was searching for Xiao Feng. When Xiao Feng shouted that he was fine, the camera instead focused on a shot of Bai Kang from behind. This was because Xiao Feng was still buried beneath the rubble, and it was unclear where he actually was. "I forgive you, artist," Bai Kang muttered. But then she heard a laugh and turned to see who it was. It was the big man from earlier, asking how they had managed to open the door. Bai Kang noticed something was wrong. Everyone was smiling in a strange, eerie way. Suddenly, the leader lunged at her. Back in the subspace, the cat began transforming, growing gigantic in front of Su Chen. Su Chen was baffled at how the creature was growing so rapidly. With no choice, he removed the monster from the subspace, placing it face to face with the vine-covered beast. Su Chen quipped about the old saying, "Two tigers cannot share the same mountain." Standing next to the cat, he realized it had likely stolen the crystal to lure him there. He stared at the feline, surmising it had wanted his help against this monster. Before he could respond, the cat grabbed his back, clearly preparing for something. Su Chen climbed onto its back, declaring that now they would fight together. The cat, judging by its expression, wasn't thrilled with the idea, but there was no time to hesitate as the other creature lunged for a bite. The cat's expression shifted and it lashed out with a swipe, leaving a cut on the monster. However, even the cat's claws didn't seem to cause much damage. Su Chen instructed the cat to maintain its distance while he approached the vines, leaving the rest to him. The cat dodged several attacks, one of which struck the ground and caused water to start leaking in. It continued evading despite the vines relentlessly closing in. Finally, Su Chen found an opening and launched himself at the monster. He landed a powerful punch directly on its head, sending it crashing to the ground. The cat was visibly impressed by Su Chen's strength. The monster began to rise but was trembling all over. Together, they kept up the pressure, attacking it from all sides. After a series of blows, the creature's head finally cracked and the crystal fell to the ground. The cat was already grinning, ready to snatch the prize. But Su Chen, anticipating this, grabbed the crystal mid-air, declaring it his. The cat seemed ready to complain, but Su Chen was already preparing to consume it. Meanwhile, the walls around them started collapsing and water began flooding in. Seeing this, Su Chen realized the entire area would soon be submerged. But then he noticed something amusing. The so-called legendary cat seemed to have a fear of water. Su Chen grabbed the little cat by the head and said that if it was afraid, it could leave with him and escape this place. The creature responded with a resolute no, so Su Chen tossed it back into the water. The cat quickly scrambled back and clung to Su Chen's arm. Su Chen picked it up again and asked if it had changed its mind. The poor thing seemed to realize it didn't have much of a choice. Meanwhile, Bai Kang, or at least a good portion of her, was fighting off the strange group of men. Despite her efforts, it seemed none of them were dying. Trapped beneath rubble and inside the tank, she realized escaping might be her only option. but she noted it was impossible as there was nowhere to go. That's when she spotted the strange rabbit-like creature. Vines were sprouting from it, controlling everyone around and draining their energy. The rabbit approached her from the front while vines crept up behind her. Xiaofeng yelled at her to get out of there, but it was too late. She was captured. The poor woman was being dragged toward the rabbit's gaping maw. She realized she had let her guard down and now couldn't be saved. Xiaofeng powered up the tank, breaking free from the rubble. He smashed the rabbit and fired directly into its mouth as it tried to bite the tank. The shot obliterated the creature's head. Bai Kang was astonished, while Xiaofeng, exhausted, leaned back in his chair to relax. But the crystal fell directly onto him, landing squarely in his mouth. Before he understood what was happening, his eyes glowed green. Bai Kang asked what was going on, and Xiaofeng explained that he had accidentally swallowed the creature's core. Nearby, the little cat perched on Su Chen's shirt as he approached. Su Chen asked what was going on with Xiaofeng eating a crystal. Xiaofeng explained the situation and added that he couldn't feel anything different. Su Chen simply replied that the power would probably awaken during a fight, but for now, they needed to leave. Ever the cautious one, Bai Kang noticed the little cat and questioned Su Chen if he really intended to keep such a thing in the apocalypse. Outside, women were still being tied to poles. The monsters had obviously captured them for unspeakable purposes. Suddenly, they heard the sound of a car approaching from behind. Someone stepped out, and the monsters, annoyed, demanded to know who dared interrupt their fun. While Su Chen played with the little cat, Bai Kang asked if it was really safe to let Xiaofeng handle this situation so soon after their last fight. Su Chen assured her not to worry, saying he'd keep an eye on him. If this was the same person from his past life, he'd manage just fine. For Xiaofeng, the best way to awaken his powers now was to put himself in danger. Suddenly, 3 devourers leaped toward him. They unleashed a flurry of attacks, but nothing happened. Bai Kang, however, looked worried, commenting that at this rate, he might actually die. One of the devourers, puzzled, noticed his attacks weren't having any effect. Xiaofeng revealed it was because he was absorbing the energy from their punches. The monsters lunged at him again, attempting to strike. But Xiaofeng, unfazed, called it persistence and activated his energy-draining ability. He began absorbing their strength, leaving the monsters confused as to why their powers seemed to be dwindling. Su Chen observed, noting how fitting this ability was for Xiaofeng. Suddenly, he sensed something approaching. A hammer came spinning through the air, slicing through the necks of all 3 monsters. Xiaofeng was startled as the weapon landed in someone's hand. It was Captain Sun. Some remarked that he had barely managed to save Xiaofeng in time. Had he arrived a moment later, everyone would have been dead. As payment for his help, Sun demanded they hand over some food. Xiaofeng immediately started to protest. However, Su Chen told Xiaofeng not to do anything rash. He suggested they just take some food from the car and hand it over to Captain Sun. He pulled out a box from the car and said that in the apocalypse, options were limited. He handed over several boxes of food, jokingly telling Sun that this was truly delicious. Before Sun could complain, Su Chen sped off in the car. One of Sun's men asked why he didn't take the opportunity to kill Xiaofeng. Sun explained that he had tried but missed the attack. The man kept provoking Sun, accusing him of trusting these newcomers more than those who had been with the group for a long time. In the car, Su Chen asked Xiaofeng if Sun had something personal against him. Xiaofeng replied that Sun had always been like that and told Su Chen not to stress about it. But the truth was, when the axe had flown, Su Chen had thrown a rock to change its trajectory. If it wasn't personal, it showed that Sun had some kind of ulterior motive. Su Chen suspected that Sun was likely trying to form a separate faction within the base, and something like that couldn't be allowed to happen. Back at the construction site, the giant Yun Yun was helping to build the walls. She asked if there was anything else they wanted her help with since she needed to eat a lot. The workers reassured her not to worry, saying the best part of all this was ensuring the people's safety. At that moment, she called out to everyone, announcing that Su Chen's car was returning. Already arriving at the base, Su Chen tells his kitten not to scare people. The kitten meows softly and seems calm. Bai Kang comments that the little guy is happy, probably because he hasn't been out in a long time. Su Chen, however, says it's because he fed him a lot, and obviously, no one would do that in an apocalypse. A while later, they show him the warehouse and ask if there's enough space. We then see Gao Yue startled upon discovering that Su Chen has spatial storage abilities. It was necessary to reveal this so he could understand how all those military supplies ended up there. Su Chen explains that these are weapons they found at the base, and now with them they can establish their base securely. Gao Yue asks why Su Chen is revealing his ability. Wouldn't it have been safer to keep it a secret from everyone? However, Su Chen says that now they are all in this together, so he trusts the people. The captain agrees and promises to keep this secret until death. Bai Kang then says the base doesn't have a name yet and suggests it be called Dawn Light. Apparently, Su Chen's name in Chinese also means dawn. Gao Yue says it's a good name considering this base will be a new hope for everyone in the apocalypse. Su Chen thinks it will be an honor for him as this apocalypse base will be the true heaven in this place. The kitten is approaching a spot where people are praising Do-Won for successfully removing a plant. Some doctors tell her that the surgery wouldn't have been possible without her. Wow, this Do-Won really has a big heart to be saving these people, doesn't she? She simply says it's a pity she can't save every case in this place. However, the scalpel she was holding reminded the kitten of some experiments conducted on him. At that moment, he got scared and froze. Seeing this, Duwon stroked him, trying to find out if he was hungry. She picked up the poor thing, which couldn't react. She didn't know Su-chen was the one who brought the kitten, and thought about asking to take care of him when he appeared. However, she realized it was unlikely he would agree given how hard it is to find food at this moment. She then goes to a door and says this is their temporary shelter. Suddenly, someone hugs her from behind and asks if she wants to have some fun. A second later, she's already on the bed. The kitten is there in the middle doing who knows what. Run, kitty, run. The protagonist wants to know how she already knew it was him. She replies that he's the only person completely immune to her psychic powers. A while later, I don't know what happened, but the kitten is already taking a bath with her. She finds out that Su-chen was the one who maimed him, and due to the golden patterns on his body, she decides to name him Gold. Wait, I didn't know Su-chen was nearby, but there he is, saying he needs help cleaning the kitten. She changes the subject and asks how the expedition to the military base went. He shows the crystal and says that with it, he'll become a level 2 human. The cat is confused because he remembers seeing Su-chen earlier. However, Su-chen reveals that at that time he only threw it into the storage space. That's because consuming a crystal is dangerous, as many things can happen at that moment. Usually, it provides a lot of energy that needs to be spent. I thought he had already used up the energy, but now that he's transformed, you know what he'll use it on. Meanwhile, the gigantic Yun-Yun was passing by outside. The kitten seems to notice something. It's Yun-Yun looking through the window, wondering why Su-chen didn't call her. Duonia asks Yun-Yun for help, saying she can't handle it alone. Yun-Yun is startled and transforms. Su-chen says she arrived at the perfect time. Both women are lying on the bed, saying it was amazing, right guys? What are we even reading? Su-chen apologizes, saying he had too much energy because he absorbed many crystals. Yun-Yun comments that she'll need to absorb some crystals too because otherwise she won't be able to keep up. Duonia asks what has changed now that he has become a level 2 human. He says he'll need to test it because he hasn't fully understood yet. He then activates the steel body ability again and feels that now his skin is truly impenetrable. He stretches out his arm and a strange energy accumulates, prompting him to decide to run a test. Releasing a bit of power, the two are hit by a gust of wind and thrown out of the bed. He comments that it seems like it doesn't cause that much damage. Another detail is that the spatial ability used to only open where he made contact, but now he can open multiple small portals within a 20-meter radius. The two are angry about being used as test dummies. He shows that his ice ability can now create slightly larger blocks and even wet his hand, though it's still not very useful. At this point, he has an interesting idea and creates 3 ice blocks. He throws them into the portal and makes them come out elsewhere, creating a sort of guided shot. By combining this mental force with teleportation, he essentially has a perfect ambush weapon. None of the 3 knew it was possible to combine abilities this way. He then activates mental perception. The range doesn't seem to have changed much, though now he can understand every cell in his body. That's when he feels something strange inside his body and is teleported to a pink place. He looks around, confused about where he is, when someone comes up from behind, saying this is a space within his consciousness. It turns out to be that doctor from earlier, now with long hair, saying it's been a while since they last saw each other. In the air, he recalls her from the memories of that man and asks if she isn't dead and disintegrated. Her hair flies forward and grabs his arms. She explains that because he consumed her crystal, she has now become a parasite within his body. It's impossible for her to cease to exist because her essence has merged with him. She approaches and places her hand on him, who has already realized that his abilities don't work in this world. On the outside, he's standing still, silent, while the 2 girls are worried, wondering what's happening. Meanwhile, in the illusion, he asks what she wants. She explains that she's been alone in this place for a long time and was eagerly waiting for him to appear. She approaches, saying it's obvious what she's going to do. At that moment, Su-chen realizes there's one ability he can still use. He transforms the ice into a sort of whip and grabs her by the neck. With this, he manages to pull her and appears behind her, saying he won't let her take over his body. She tries to explain that it's impossible with his level of mental strength, but he immobilizes her with those peculiar ropes. She tells him that leaving her trapped there won't kill her consciousness or essence. To this, he responds that he will freeze her and leave her there forever. As she suffers, she says she knows she's not as strong as him. However, this is a space within the consciousness which she controls. A bunch of hair emerges from the ground, and she says if that's the case, she won't lose. A second later, Su-chen is tied up, swaying back and forth. The two stare at each other, and she wants to see who will back down first. He keeps trying to move, but she warns that neither of them will be able to move in that place. Su-chen is now in trouble because he really can't break free from this cocoon. He then says staying in this situation won't help either of them, so they might as well talk. He asks what she wants, and she explains that she just needs to absorb a bit of his abilities to survive. This wouldn't affect him, and he doesn't need to worry because she doesn't have the strength to take over his body. He says he's not very keen on the idea and asks how to remove her from his body. She explains that she needs the power of the abilities to survive, otherwise she'll die. The only other option is for him to find the body of a woman with powers. It couldn't be someone too weak, and she'd need to have an excellent appearance. He responds that she's being too picky for someone at risk of dying and asks how he'll know the right woman is. She explains that when he meets the right person, she'll let him know. She moves closer, saying he might even gain some benefits. The protagonist replies that he doesn't need any benefits and warns her that if she tries anything, he'll eliminate her. She says she understands and asks to be released as she doesn't like being trapped. With that, the cocoon and ice ropes dissolve. Su-chen is back in the room. The two girls ask what happened because they were calling out to him and he wasn't responding. When he learns he was completely immobilized, he finds it very risky to have something that could take over his body. Meanwhile, the scientist's consciousness space starts to freeze. She screams, wanting to know why this bastard is doing something like that. Meanwhile, he thinks he's lucky to have this ice ability that works in the conscious space. However, the safest option is definitely to find another body for this woman. That's when he remembers there are plenty of women at the base and asks Duan to take him to meet more women. The two are a bit confused, wondering why he suddenly wants other women. After everything that happened, is he still not satisfied? He is a bit embarrassed and says he actually wants to check on everyone's health at the base. While walking through the streets, Duanya explains that they currently have 1,300 members. Over 400 are soldiers responsible for base security and dealing with the Devourer attacks. The rest of the men, along with Yun Yun, are building the barriers and defenses. The women and children are handling mutated plants and logistics. Additionally, they have a hospital area where non-severe cases can be treated. She explains that everyone is working hard and once the walls are built, they can finally rest a little. Su-chen says it's good to know, but he's certain no one will have time to relax. In another part of the base, someone mentions that they urgently need to take over the hospital controlled by the Devourer tribe. It's a meeting among the military, and Ga Yui asks if anyone has a solid plan. A man with gray hair comments that the Devourer base has fewer than 100 members, making it ideal to send Captain Sun's team. But Captain Sun is right on the other side of the table. He says that it was Su-chen's idea to build this base, so where is he during this meeting? Gao Yue tells Sun to watch his words. Without Su-chen, the Dawnlight base wouldn't even exist. He's sitting there because of what the young man did. Gao Yue has already noticed that Sun has the wrong impression of Su-chen. He recalls the moment he asked the young man why he wanted Gao Yue to take charge of the base. The protagonist responded that he had no interest in being a leader and trusted Gao Yue to handle it. However, he warned never to forget that the apocalyptic world is full of disasters. Even with the base's protection, if people aren't vigilant and aware of their surroundings, it would eventually be destroyed. Gao Yue replied that he understood, imagining Su-chen was more interested in getting stronger. Back at the meeting, he says he's certain Su-chen would help without hesitation if they faced any problems. Sun responds that the Devourer tribe at the hospital is quite strong and he can't be held responsible for the losses that will occur. The captain says it's fine and proposes sending Xiaofeng along with Su-chen to ensure success. Sun agrees, saying that since the captain insists, he'll accept the mission and begins preparing. Outside, one of Sun's lackeys asks why they're attacking the hospital when they were planning to steal a base. Sun says he's very concerned about Xiaofeng and Su-chen's abilities, which are hard to deal with. However, if they go on this mission and he can quietly get rid of the two, taking over the base will be much easier. Back at the meeting, someone tells the captain that Sun accepted the mission, as Su-chen predicted. The captain acknowledges this but hopes Sun won't follow the path Su-chen warned about. He then asks if a team was sent to explore that part of the city. The man confirms and mentions that if Su-chen's information is correct, something big is happening. The scene shifts to the city of He in the refugee zone. Sitting in a tree, Miao Piu Yuan says Su-chen is very strong and could help them get some crystals. However, Chen Wai responds that getting stronger depends on oneself, and besides, Su-chen has already helped them enough. The boy says he understands but complains that they've been fighting many mutated beasts and haven't gained anything, which is frustrating. He then tells his friend to stay quiet. He hides behind a tree and warns that people are approaching, bringing women with them. In front of the base, some men ask who's arriving. A mustached man informs the boss they're delivering the goods. Among them is Ji, whom Su-chen has encountered 3 times before. The man says they're all high quality. The boss instructs them to proceed as he'll take them to the Lord. He pats his friend's belly, saying they'll make a fortune once again. In another room, someone expresses dissatisfaction with the current batch of goods. The Devourer chief of the location declares that the woman who can give him a child will be spared. One of them tries to say something but is grabbed by the neck, and he tells her she's just a tool. While the girl cries, another man approaches and reports that Su-chen's group is coming to attack the hospital. The chief orders his entire group sent out because he wants this Su-chen dead. One of them explains that the people are starving and too weak to fight. The only way to win would be to turn everyone into devourers, but the process takes time. At this, Ji, sitting in the back, offers to help. The chief turns and asks what her plan is. In the next scene, 2 of his men are buried up to their necks. They ask the chief what's happening and why he's doing this when they've always been loyal. He approaches with a hammer and explains that Ji said she could help him build an army of devourers. The problem is she needs their heads as ingredients for a potion. They call it a lie, clearly a revenge act for capturing her. The chief says he doesn't care, he's more curious to see what she'll do. He strikes their heads, sending them flying. We then see a red pool where devourers are throwing all the survivors. Someone pours a green liquid, claiming that this second-generation serum accelerates the devourer process. It's G, now fully adapted to her new surroundings, even wearing a robe and wielding a staff. One of the humans is grabbed by the neck, begging to be released, while another is thrown into the cauldron. G tells them to feel honored. Only a few are selected and qualified to enter the blood pool. Only the strongest heroes can serve the city's lord. As she watches the man drown, she thinks everything terrible that happened to her is Su Chen's fault. Because he destroyed the evolution base, she was captured, enslaved, and suffered immensely. And that's why she'll do everything to make him pay the price. One of the men climbs out of the pool, now fully transformed and looking strange. From behind the wall, Chen Wei observes and realizes they are trying to turn everyone in the city into devourers. Miao Pu Yuan comments that at this rate, over 2,000 people will be used. They climb down knowing they need to pass this information on before their base is annihilated. However, someone appears and remarks that it's a shame. Several devourers are already behind them, announcing that neither of them will make it out alive. Miao Pu Yuan is startled, but Chen Wei steps forward, saying he'll create an opportunity for Miao to escape. The devourers, however, laugh and declare that neither will have a chance. They'll become Fu here and now. The scene shifts back to the Dawnlight base. Xiao Mai is walking when Su Chen approaches her, asking how life is at the base. She says everything is peaceful, and no one is causing her any trouble. At that moment, Gao Yue calls for Su Chen. He approaches and says he has spoken with Captain Sun, but they'll need Su Chen's help to kill numerous devourers. Su Chen simply responds that it's not a problem. However, the captain adds that he has one more request. The hospital is very close to their base and will eventually become a problem. Furthermore, the medicine there is an extremely important resource, so he asks Su Chen to retrieve some for them. The protagonist assures him not to worry, he'll only take what's necessary. Gao Yue then wishes him good luck, mentioning that all the powered individuals at the base will join the mission this time. The military group arrives, stating that they're under Su Chen's command. The protagonist gathers everyone's attention and tells them to listen up. He wants them to remain at the base to defend it, especially keeping an eye on the movements in Aga City. The group looks surprised, perhaps too much so, that he doesn't want their help. But Su Chen knows something very dangerous is about to happen. Back with Chen Wei, the two are surrounded by several devourers. Miao Pu Yuan says they won't make it out alive at this rate. Chen Wei reminds him of all the missions they've been through. Miao Pu Yuan recalls many, considering he's one of the people who has done the most missions. But the devourers taunt them, telling them to stop scheming because both will die here today. Chen Wei charges forward to punch one, yelling for them to disappear. But he's holding something in his hand and throws it into the devourer's eyes. While two of them cover their faces, they try to escape to the side. However, as the boy turns to say something, a spear pierces through his ribs. Chen Wei screams his name, but the leader lifts him up by the spear. He remarks that it's great his meal has arrived at his doorstep, but since he's too scrawny, he'll leave him for his friends. With that, the poor boy is thrown to the devourers, an entire army. The poor kid definitely won't make it out alive. Chen Wei runs to help but is also struck in the back. It seems Miao Pu Yuan has already been torn in half. Fallen to the ground, Chen Wei can only watch as his friend is devoured. He gathers his strength and runs to the riverbank, trying to throw himself into the water. The devourers notice and throw some spears, but he narrowly manages to hit the edge and falls into the water. The monsters, frustrated, curse the boy for escaping when they're starving. The leader smirks and says he knows a place full of food. He orders all of them to attack the Dawnlight base and seize the opportunity. With their overwhelming numbers, the devourers are thrilled. They don't care about the risk, they just want to eat wherever they can. The leader then calls for Shen by name and tells him to wait as he's coming with a visit. The scene shifts to the city hospital. A girl is crying, and apparently, a devourer monster has just been born from her. Not sure how, since this apocalypse only started a few weeks ago, but I guess devourers are born faster. Well, considering how quickly people transform after jumping into the pool, it makes sense. This devourer is Feng Pangzi, the hospital's leader. Meanwhile, downstairs at the hospital, guards are stationed when suddenly a group arrives, armed and shooting. Before they can react, Captain Sun cuts down the first one. He turns to the rest and orders them to clear the way. He directs this to Su Chen's group, but Xiao Feng wants to know why. Captain Sun explains that the people behind them are just regular folks with guns, so it's too risky for them. But Su Chen asks what Sun will do if they refuse to go ahead, and whether this is a threat. Sun insists it's not, claiming he only wants the powered individuals to lead the group. Su Chen agrees but warns that when a weapon is pointed at him, the outcome is never good for the other person. He calls for Duan, who is, surprisingly, not turning her back this time. For once, she's facing forward. Incredible. Sun then tells his men to let Su Chen tire himself out before they start shooting. However, the soldiers are hesitant to target Duan for obvious reasons. They'd rather risk Su Chen's wrath. As soon as the military group steps into the hospital, they seem confused. No one from Su Chen's group is there. Where could they have gone? Hidden nearby, Xiao Feng asks what's happening. Duan explains it's easy to control the vision of ordinary people. The only problem is Captain Sun, who might notice something is off. Su Chen activates the portal and reassures her not to worry. Sun won't notice a thing. Su Chen starts teleporting behind the soldiers, striking the back of their necks one by one. Sun orders his men to take cover while Su Chen pushes them toward the monsters. Using his mental perception, Su Chen senses where the devourers are and directs the group accordingly. Meanwhile, Sun leads his troops trying to locate the enemy. In one of the rooms, Feng Pangzi encounters his group along with two women. The devourers express their desire to become like their leader, but Pangzi gets furious at them for stealing his women. He punches, destroying the entire wall. The blow tears through the devourers and narrowly misses Sun's back. As Pangzi exits the room, he comes face to face with Sun, demanding to know how they got there. One of Sun's men warns him to look up, pointing out that something is wrong. The hospital has far more devourers than they expected. Before they can react, Sun orders his troops to start shooting immediately. The soldiers open fire, but their weapons have no effect. Pangzi laughs, announcing to his brothers that their feast has arrived. The devourers charge, shouting about tearing off their legs and roasting them. The soldiers stand no chance, sliced vertically, horizontally, and every which way. The only one holding his ground is Sun. He swings his axe, cutting down 3 devourers, proving he's not as weak as he seemed. Sun rallies his troops, declaring that even without weapons, they'll fight these beasts to the death. He's convinced this chaos is Su Chen's doing and vows to kill him once the devourers are dealt with. Remarkably, his words inspire the soldiers, who charge at the devourers. Given how monstrous these creatures are, you can't help but root for Sun's army. The problem is, they're utterly powerless. The soldiers fall dead easily, and everyone realizes they'd be better off finding a place to hide. One of them, attempting to flee, notices something nearby. It appears to be a devourer infant, a strange sight. The child suddenly jumps into a black puddle on a table. The man watches, confused about where it went, not realizing it's already beneath him. The little monster leaps onto his leg, biting into his calf, arm, and entire body. The man collapses, dead, as the infernal infant discovers it grows larger the more it eats. Outside, Captain Sun has slain numerous devourers. The soldiers are awestruck. How is he doing this as a mere human? At that moment, Pangzi appears beside him, mocking him for taking pride in killing such weaklings. Sun leaps toward Pangzi, seeing a perfect chance to cut him in half. He swings his axe at Pangzi's face, but Pangzi easily blocks the attack. Sun is shocked, and suddenly the infernal infant appears behind him. Sun takes 2 deep slashes to his arms. It falls to the ground, and the demonic baby moves in for the kill, snarling that Sun should die. But before it can strike, it's kicked in the mouth and sent flying. A little demon stands up, demanding to know who dared kick it. It's Su Chen, who tells him that Sun is someone he can't kill. Pangzi's expression shifts. Upon seeing Duan Anhwa, he becomes infatuated. He screams in delight, claiming it's his lucky day to meet such a beautiful person. He tells Su Chen that, as a reward for bringing such beauty, he'll let him choose how he wants to die. But Su Chen appears beside him instantly, telling him he talks too much. Su Chen punches Pangzi square in the chest, declaring his choice is to send him to hell. A hole is left in Pangzi's chest. However, Pangzi gets back up, impressed that Su Chen is an ability user. The wound heals, and Pangzi remarks that Su Chen's body must be full of energy. What's with this creepy talk? The infernal infant looks at Duan Anhua, calling her weak but saying she can stay since his father likes her. She can be his mother. She's horrified, but Bayabin assures her not to worry. They've just fed and won't eat her. Still, the accursed demon declares he wants milk. Before he can finish, Duan lifts her leg and kicks him in the neck. The demon child rises, accusing her of mistreating him, only to be kicked again and sent flying. Duan stomps on the little brat, urging him to die already. She pins him to the wall with her foot, but he smiles, saying his mother is amazing. Duan begins to suspect this creature has abilities. Suddenly, it appears behind her, explaining it can move through shadows. As long as it has this power, it can attack her from anywhere. Before it can act, Gold leaps at it, clawing its face and pinning it to the wall. Gold perches on Duan, seemingly at ease. Duan warns Gold to be careful, as this place is extremely dangerous. At least she has her mental perception to sense where the creature will come from. The demon reappears beside Gold, threatening to kill the stupid cat, but is promptly slashed by Gold and thrown against the wall. Duan draws her weapon and fires repeatedly. When the smoke clears, the creature is hiding behind a pillar, realizing it's better to flee. Meanwhile, Captain Sun, now armless, gathers what remains of his army. Shefeng steps forward, urging him to stay back as the area is too dangerous. The devourers laugh, calling Shafeng pathetic and mocking his attempt to intervene. Sun, however, sees Shafeng's honesty as a perfect opportunity to use him as a distraction to escape. Shafeng calls out to Sun, stating that as the leader of the operation, he orders Sun to protect him so he can escape. Sun agrees, but insists Shafeng must do him a favor first. When Sun asks why, Shafeng grabs him by the neck. Shafeng explains that now that Sun has lost his arms, his energy is useless, so Shafeng will put it to good use. Completely drained, Sun demands to know why a teammate would betray him. Shafeng simply replies that they were warned. Anyone who points a weapon at them is an enemy. Since Sun is an enemy, everyone here will die. Without hesitation, Shafeng starts absorbing the energy of the entire army, showing no mercy. Meanwhile, back at Dawn Lake Base, thanks to Su Chen's warning, they were prepared for the Devourer's attack. Yun Yun stands atop the wall when Bai Kang approaches, asking why she's still there. Yun Yun replies that building the defenses Su Chen requested took a lot of effort, and she won't let the Devourers destroy it. Out of nowhere, Bai Kang asks Yun Yun something specific. She mentions knowing that Yun Yun and Duan Ya are close to Su Chen and asks if Yun Yun doesn't find that strange. Yun Yun admits it's odd, but since it's the apocalypse, she doesn't care about old world rules. She silently acknowledges that she's glad for Duan Ya's help because she couldn't manage alone. Yun Yun then teases Bai Kang, noting how shy she seems and asking if she feels something for Su Chen. Bai Kang denies it, calling the idea ridiculous. Yun Yun says it's normal to be attracted to someone like Su Chen in the apocalypse, since he's strong and good-looking. Bai Kang, a bit flustered, mutters to herself that maybe it's normal then. Just then, someone on the wall points and tells the captain to look. An entire army of Devourers is approaching, far more than they expected. Bai Kang immediately orders the generals to be notified and civilians evacuated. Yun Yun pulls out food from her bag and starts eating. She asked Bai Kang if she plans to abandon the base. Bai Kang replies that of course she doesn't, but securing the civilians' safety comes first. Yun Yun keeps eating, determined not to let the barrier she worked hard to build be destroyed. She retrieves a strengthening potion from her bag, applies it to her arm, and climbs the wall. All but first, Yun Yun declares, leaping off the wall. She tells Bai Kang to organize the troops and ensure no one abandons the base. On the ground, Yun Yun grows enormous, though her clothes somehow remain intact. Grabbing a tree, she challenges the Devourers, warning them they'll go no further. She notices her body is growing even more than usual, likely due to the potion's effects. Now towering like a titan, she confidently declares she'll handle the pests. The Devourer leader laughs, amused by her confidence. The Devourer army advances, scaling roofs like its attack on Titan. Yun Yun smashes those who try to flank her with the tree, sending them flying. Those jumping from the rooftops cling to her arm, but a single swipe reduces them to bloody pulp. Bai Kang watches, impressed by Yun Yun's strength, but aware that even as a giant, Yun Yun can't last forever. At this rate, the base will fall unless something changes. Yun Yun keeps swinging her tree, scattering the Devourers and intimidating them. Down below, the Devourers hesitate, visibly afraid. Dia appears, questioning their lack of willingness to fight. Suddenly, the Devourers, unable to resist a woman's presence, lunge at her. Dia smacks their heads, taunting them for their newfound courage and claiming they now have the energy to face Yun Yun. She plants seeds in their heads, causing confusion. Dia reveals that during her imprisonment in Hexiang, she discovered her blood enhances plants' strength. She can even grow a sprout within someone, though it costs their life. From the Devourer's heads sprout grotesque flesh plants. The creatures mutate, with eyes emerging in the middle of their faces. Yun Yun turns to see three massive monstrosities before her. The leader grins, claiming this is the perfect opportunity. While the monsters distract Yun Yun, the rest of the Devourers are to invade the base and destroy everything. Two of the creatures climb the wall, shouting their intent to kill everyone. But they're greeted with a shot straight to the head. One stares in confusion at the array of tanks before them. They can't fathom how this isolated base has such a massive military arsenal. Yun Yun cheers as reinforcements finally arrive. Suddenly, one plant monster shoots a tentacle, grabbing Yun Yun's arm. Another lunges to bite her, forcing her to block with her other arm. She's immobilized as a third approaches from behind. Just as all hope seems lost, a drone flies in and explodes mid-air, blasting the monster away. Bai Kang, perched on a roof with equipment Su Chen brought from the base, controls the drone. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Su Chen battles Pangzi. Despite Su Chen's attacks, Pangzi regenerates, laughing maniacally. Pangzi mocks Su Chen's strength, claiming it's decent but nowhere near his level. As Pangzi moves in to punch, Su Chen's inner consciousness drifts. Inside, the girl asks, where's the like on this video that helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers? Activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out.